Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I almost forgot to hit the go live button there, but it's okay because that was like 30 seconds intro of Harry just sitting in a bedroom doing nothing. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are here, that means you have gone on this massive journey with us, and we have finally reached the end of the Harry Potter retrospective, Deathly Hallows Part 2. I guess I'll stick with the name. Whose boat was it, Taylor Field?
I am the boy who lived, Kirklin Patzer.
I'm Mark Caster, Dilmas.
And I am still the master of death, Jessica.
There you go. Quick housekeeping. Be sure to check us out on our social media. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerse is our Twitter. And then GeekVerse is our Facebook. And be sure as well to check us out on our Patreon. If you are listening to this early on Patreon, then good for you. You're amazing. But yeah, for the most part, Patreon, you get ad-free early episodes exclusive. So it's a good time all around. And that being said, let's get into this.
Hell yes.
Taylor, I will say that there is an iconic boathouse scene in this movie, and I've always wondered whose boat that was in there that's just floating around.
It's funny because I was wondering whose house it actually was as well. But it's specifically probably Hogwarts property.
Yeah. But it's a good question nonetheless.
It's Filch's.
It's where Filch sleeps. Yeah.
Oh, poor guy.
So who wants to take it away and start us off like what they think of this movie overall?
I can go ahead. Man, this was an interesting watch through of this movie. I feel like I've probably seen this one, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 times in my life, but just because, like, even though maybe I've seen Order of the Phoenix 3 or 4 times, just because this one's more recent, you know, that's like closer in my memories to pull from, and a lot of this did feel familiar to me, opposed to Half-Blood Prince, where I didn't remember anything, and Order of the Phoenix, where I was pretty foggy on. But I think that I was much less hot on this movie this time around than any other time I've watched it. And I think there's a few reasons why. I mean, obviously, it's the end of everything, and I feel like, you know, going through my notes, like paying a lot more attention to all the movies and really watching them from the first one all the way to here, I feel like there's so many loose ends that have not been tied up, and obviously it's not going to happen anymore. I feel like there's just a lot of action in this movie and not as much character development stuff. Ultimately, I think it just fell flat for me in a lot of ways. There is stuff I really enjoy, but I think I would have preferred if part 1 and part 2 were a combined movie, and, like, you know, make it 3 hours, cut out some of the fluff, and it's just like a long, maybe 3.5. It's a long ass movie, but I think it probably would have remedied a lot of the issues I had with part 1 and a lot of the things I had with part 2, because this just doesn't feel like a complete movie to me. It feels like specifically like the third act of a movie, and so I think it lacks some of that dynamic nature that maybe everything else in the series up until, well, part 1 also feels kind of like that in a weird way, but pretty much 1 through 6 all felt like well constructed and consistent movies that stand strong on their own. This one I don't think as much, and even though I've watched them all in order up to this point, it still didn't really land as much for me. So, but I'm really excited. There's so much fun notes and questions and topics that I have for this one, so I'm really excited to get into it nonetheless.
Very nice. I guess I'll go next. I think this one is actually the one I've seen the least amount of times for whatever reason. I've seen part 1 more. You'd think that there'd be like even numbers, but I'm pretty sure I've seen part 1 more. But yeah, so there was a lot of stuff in this movie that I just wasn't like expecting to happen. Like, I knew the overall subject matter of what was going to happen, but then there's just specific things with like characters or certain like quick little words that characters threw out there that I'm like, oh wow, like I've seen this probably 3 times at least, but I don't I don't remember them saying that at all. Maybe it's because I had subtitles this time around. That helps so much, just missing quick little quiet words that they might throw out there. But I do agree with you, Dylan, that this one feels like the most like not standing on its own like the other movies were. I feel like I wouldn't have noticed that other than us, you know, watching every movie and then dissecting it and then just talking about it amongst ourselves. So it is fun to watch the series this way, the way that we're doing it, because there's a lot of stuff that I miss that you guys might throw out there. There's stuff that you guys might miss that I throw out there. It's just fun to talk about it. So I am excited to dive into some specific moments, but overall, I thought it was okay because there was a handful of really, really good moments that I really, really liked that like raised the hair on my arms. And I was like, oh man, like, geez, this is good. And then there's other moments that I'm like, I can't believe they did that with those just like series of, I don't know, whether it's characters dying just like very, very quickly back to back to back. It's just like, let's just kill off all these people because we're near the end of the series. But then there's also stuff that is kind of unanswered. So I don't know. I'm excited to talk about it with you guys, but I feel like I was surprised where this movie placed in my ranking for sure, as well as a bunch of other movies, but I'm excited to get there too once we're all done.
For the last time on the Harry Potter retrospective, ladies first.
I don't think it will be the last time. I think there'll definitely be at least
On the Harry Potter retrospective?
within the next 2 to 3 hours. You will 100% say that at least once more.
That's true. I think that's likely.
Interesting.
Now he's not going to let me go first just to
That's
spite me.
Yeah, it's gonna cut you off.
Yeah, so definitely when I've watched this before, it's been very, the whole series in general, it's fun. I enjoy watching it and I take it for what it is. And talking through each episode every week, as well as putting in the effort to go and find all the little, did you know, and the Easter eggs, and then also looking up all the differences between the books and the movies every week has really made it, I don't want to say not as enjoyable because I still have a fun time watching them, but it's definitely made, there's a lot more holes, a lot more questions, and a lot more, kind of, as you have already said, kind of open-ended, unanswered pieces. I definitely have problems more with this one this time than I have any other time because of those reasons. And I can definitely see what Dylan says about how pretty much the last three really feel just kind of like a standalone trilogy where they're very disconnected between the art style and just kind of the storyline and how things are progressing. I don't know how I would feel about this being 1 3-hour movie or 3.5-hour movie with the first one. Just even kind of, we'll get to, there's still a lot of things that are missing. We talked about some of it last time. I have some more this time. And it just, I don't know if it would have made it better or worse to have, I don't quite know what would have made this feel more cohesive and more kind of like a solid, happy ending that people wanted. But I'll leave it at that for now as kind of my overall, and I'm excited to kind of dive into this with you guys, and especially interested actually to hear the final ratings at the end for everyone.
Yeah, this film, I do find it interesting now that we've reached the end and how it kind of squares up against everything else. Like, I think what you were mentioning, Dylan, about how it just feels like it's its own kind of trilogy, I think that's definitely spot on. In terms of it being like a whole ending to this franchise, or at least Harry Potter's story, his arc. Like I think it could have been better in some ways, but again, with like what you said, Kirklin, there's a lot of things that unfolded in like moments. For me specifically, that I really liked and enjoyed, and yeah, like it has such a climactic peak that it hits that it checks a lot of things off on my list that satisfy me in terms of like what I was hoping for when I was like itching to get to in Harry Potter. And I feel like the buildup was definitely worth the wait. But again, it's not a perfect movie. It's definitely no Order of the Phoenix for me, but but I'm excited to talk about it because yeah, it has its strong moments.
Hell yes.
Nice.
So,
All right.
So-
where do we want to start then?
Yeah, I feel like this one's a bit weird because for the last at least like 3 or 4, we've kind of just gone through it like somewhat in order, talking about like the big set pieces. But
Yeah.
I feel like this one almost doesn't fit into that because there's like Gringotts, and then there's just the Battle of Hogwarts, and then there's like, I guess you could say the epilogue, which is, like 5 minutes long or something. But it really feels like there's not a whole lot of movement. It's kind of just like these 2 locations pretty much, and then that's it. Like, also, I think it's worth mentioning that this is one of the shortest movies out of all 8 of them. It's, well, if you take the credits out, credits start rolling just under 2 hours long. So
It is the shortest.
is it actually? I thought Prisoner of Azkaban was like less than 2 hours as well.
No, this is the shortest movie.
Oh, well, there you go. That's a really interesting choice. I can't think of any other franchise or series that has the final. Imagine Endgame being like, okay, we're gonna
Yeah.
do like a modest hour and a half on this. So yeah, that's an interesting thing. But I guess, when you look at it, really isn't a whole lot of places they go, and maybe that's what I was talking about with combining this into like one mega movie. And I don't know. I think that maybe even if I just watched it that way, maybe I would have enjoyed each parts of these more. But I think, stopping halfway, doing a big discussion longer than the movie is, and then like coming back and doing the rest of it, maybe that's part of the reason why I had so many issues, is because I think Jessica makes a good point. Like, I never really put the magnifying glass on the series in that way, and especially growing up, I wasn't really that age where I was thinking as critically about these things.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to come back and watch these from that perspective, because it changes a lot of things and makes you realize, like, oh, this character wasn't as cool as I thought they were. Or actually never got wrapped up, and they just kind of moved on because there was 1,000 other plot lines that were more important to wrap up.
Yeah, I think just in terms of like, I don't know, the possibility of combining these 2 movies, I feel like I kind of push back against that a bit though, because for me, like looking back on part 1, I don't know, just like looking back on it, it seemed like very like slow pace in comparison to this film.
Mhm.
And like you mentioned, Dylan, like I am curious what it would be like if I just sat down and just started part 1, ended at part 2, just like as if it was one movie. Because I don't know. I just feel like I would. There's just moments in the first movie that I would have just been like, oh my god, I still have 2 hours left, and like, I don't know. Like, I'm sure once it gets to that point where it is the Battle of Hogwarts, I am getting ramped up. It's like, holy shit, this is the climax. But even then, I feel like the level of the Battle of Hogwarts isn't Endgame for me. Whereas like Endgame, it could be very long and I'm tired, and then it gets to like the portal scene, and I'm just like fucking hyped because like every character that I know and love is on there getting their own moment. Whereas this one, I feel like the Battle of Hogwarts, there's not many players that got like a lot of big moments, or at least for like there definitely was, but for like this Endgame type battle, I feel like I was just expecting more side characters that I did like, and I wanted to see Seamus doing stuff. Like, did he even do anything in the Battle of Hogwarts?
Yeah,
I
he's
didn't
like
see him.
mentioned as like planning to blow up the bridge. But, like, you don't like Neville.
No,
kinda,
it's Neville. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like there's just moments, like just potential that they missed out on like showcasing certain characters near the end there. But I don't know. I kind of started talking about like one movie and then ended with just shit talking Seamus. But what do you guys think?
I don't think I really posed that as a question. It was just like
No, it's just
just a thing to mention. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot that they obviously would have had to change, but I wonder if that was ever something they considered, of having this as just one movie. Or I wonder if part of the decision, or I wonder how much of the decision to split it into 2 was for money and not strictly creative vision. I wonder where that came down to it, and I'm sure the studio is like, oh, let's squeeze out 2 more. That's a lot more money we can get if we do that.
That's a good point.
But also, yeah, I mean, if they left the movies as is and stuck them together, it's a long fucking movie, and I don't want to sit through that all in one showing at the theater. You need an intermission for that.
Yeah.
I guess we could we could just talk about the Gringotts stuff, since that's kind of like the precursor or intro, and then it's just like Battle of Hogwarts for the last hour and a half.
Well, they go to Hogsmeade. Is that where they go before that? Yep. I guess that's kind of getting ready. That's like pre-war.
Yeah, I guess.
Assembling the troops.
You meet Aberthorn there.
Yeah.
But Gringotts is kind of the first, I don't know, major section, I guess.
No, for sure. Yeah.
What do you guys think of that? Because there's kind of like there's a couple action sequences in there between the rail car and then the inside Bellatrix's vault, and then even some tomfoolery of them getting actually into the vault in the first place.
I'm wondering why they don't have that waterfall that raises enchantments at the front gates of Hogwarts. You know how much like trouble they would have like saved themselves?
Yeah, I mean that's like really hidden in like a deep dark cave. Like I don't know how ethical that is to just
It's
like
also
blast you
the
with water.
goblins too, right? The goblins are the
Greedy
tricks.
little
But
bastards.
my question is, this bothered me. So quite literally, right before they go to the vault, they're in the shack and they ask Ollivander about these two wands, and he describes. He's like, "You guys have Bellatrix's wand right here." So when they go in the bank and the goblin's like, "Bellatrix, show me your wand. Here it is. Now let me into my freaking vault." Like, why was that such?
No, I took it as he was asking for the wand. They already knew that she wasn't actually Bellatrix. I thought he was asking for the wand so that they could take the wand. She couldn't use the spell. That's the way
that's the way I took it as well, because I think it's whoever the goblin is that's with them. He says like, oh, they know, like they were probably told to expect something like this. Yeah.
Well, no, because she wasn't acting like Bellatrix. Just like, please let me in.
Mm-hmm.
She's terrible.
I don't think, because they didn't actually say, "Give me your wand." It was, "Let
Can
me
we see your wand?"
Yeah. I don't
feel
know.
like it's a disarming tactic though, when they're like just trying to be calm before they start.
Yeah, because I mean, if they just like hold it up from a few feet away, like I don't know if that's proof enough. I feel like they would have to take the wand and like inspect it or something.
But I mean,
Just
you can
crack
even
it open, check this core.
still pull it out while Harry's sneaking up to go
Mm-hmm.
True.
do his charm. I don't know. It just seemed weird to me.
She
that
could pull
they
it out
were so
and say like, "I'm
anti-
not going to give it to you, but you can look at it for sure."
Yeah. I'll give you a curse out of my wand, but I'm not giving you my wand or some crazy Bellatrix thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, if your take is right, then it's just a plot hole for sure. So,
Kirklin, I can't get it out of my head when you said that. Just this goblin breaking it open, like dragon heartstring.
Just like, oh, are you gonna fix that? It's like, you may enter. I thought for sure it was a fake.
Also, good thing that Hermione still has just an infinite supply of Polyjuice potion ready to go. We talked about that a lot last episode.
She loaded up.
She's just good to go for weeks. And I guess she grabbed some of Bellatrix's hair when she was on the ground or something like that.
Did they mention how they got?
I feel like at this point, like I just think they're like, you guys know what a Polyjuice potion is. Don't worry about how it works. You know what it is. Just put it in there. I don't know if there was that thought, but there was a scene where she had her on the ground. I don't know if in that moment she's like, "I'm going to use a Polyjuice potion. I'm going to take her hair." Yeah. But I don't know. I think it works. Like she was technically on top of her. She could have got something.
I thought when you just wrestle around, hair just falls off, right?
Right.
Just hoping it's not cat hair again by accident.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
Well, that's what they asked her. They're like, "Are you sure it's her hair?" It's like, absolutely. Well, fuck, weren't you absolutely sure the first time?
I feel like her hair is pretty iconic.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's quite
little
long
squiggles
and something special. Yeah.
So then I'm gonna throw out another one that kind of bothered me about the whole Gringotts thing. Is so they go in there and there's the curse where everything you touch multiplies, and then at one point Hermione's just like, "Stop moving." And it's like they're still touching shit.
And like, you think the duplicates would still be bouncing around and hitting and then making more duplicates. Yeah. I mean, it was convenient. It saved our heroes. So there you go.
It's just those little kind of continuity things where it's just like,
yeah.
I don't know, just open the door, have everything spill out. I don't know.
And the slimy goblin just had to double cross them.
Super slimy. He didn't last very long. He dies. And everyone, dude, that was something I completely forgot about, is that they just wipe out everyone at Gringotts. That is savage.
Mm-hmm.
Like those more characters die at Gringotts than the entire Battle of Hogwarts.
They deserve it for how they treat that dragon. Let's be honest here.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah, they're an interesting sort, aren't they? They do a lot of weird things, and people just kind of let them do it because they're goblins. It's interesting.
It is interesting.
I think I could have done without the minecart action scene. Like I think we could have just skipped right to the vault and started doing that thing. Don't know how much the water and then falling, almost dying. I don't know how much that
Yeah.
does for me. But I do like the idea of the multiplying curse, even if maybe the scene isn't done with perfection. I still think it's a fun idea, and it's the kind of weird thing that Bellatrix would have set up in her creepy room that has all these skulls and just all this gold plated jewelry and I don't know, mugs and random
I mean,
goblets.
what was the point of the charm that, or the veil that takes away all the charms if they fall and land in front of her vault anyway?
Plot armor.
Like they could have fallen in front of someone else's vault.
Or just fell forever.
Yeah.
Or just been
Yeah.
dumped out of the cart just because
Yeah,
they're there.
I feel like I double on Dylan's point where like they could have just skipped that whole cart scene for me, and then they're just at Bellatrix's vault because you're saving yourself like a bunch of screen time where I personally
Mhm.
feel it could have been used other places. I don't know. It's our heroes are in peril and then they get saved. It's like, oh, hooray.
Even that, like, the danger is supposed to be like, oh no, like the water washed away that curse that we put on Goblin, and then they just like do it again immediately. It's like,
Yeah.
okay,
yeah.
what was the point of that?
No,
And I don't know, for
exactly.
me, the dragon thing, I also could have done without the dragon completely. I feel like, I don't know, that's something that, were this a mega film, Deathly Hallows, no part 1, part 2, just shorten that sequence down a lot, and I don't think you lose much of anything.
I think
How did it get out, I think, is the question without that.
What's that, sorry?
How did they get out of the vaults without that dragon, I think is the...
I don't know, apparate. That seems to be a go-to get out of jail free card.
I don't think you can, because only the goblin could. That was part of the goblin magic. That's why they needed grip hook.
I think that could have. I think something that could have helped that entire dragon thing is if it actually like came back into the Battle of Hogwarts, because then it's like calling back. It's like, oh, that was relevant. That they saved that dragon. You know, the dragon saved them. They saved the dragon.
Just
came
fucking
back.
kills Voldemort.
Oh yeah, at least someone grab off Lucius or something. That's just one confirmed kill.
Yeah, Lucius doesn't really get a lot done.
No, he is. He's in the hot seat with Voldemort for a few moments of this film, but other than that, I don't know. Like, is he redeemed? Sorry, just still talking about Lucius here. Like,
He doesn't get redeemed. No, he like trips when he's running away.
I would say his redemption is that, like, in the epilogue, which is, we're skipping right to the end, that Draco is like a regular dude, quote unquote, even though he named his kid Scorpius. I feel like
did he actually?
Yeah, I looked in the credits.
That's a bad guy name.
I was like, that's such a badass but also evil name.
Yeah.
So just because we're kind of skipping around here, that awkward scene with the hug from Voldemort to Draco.
Oh my gosh. I never noticed that except for this viewing before. He like goes in and like sniffs them or something, I swear.
He doesn't know how to act around people. Yeah.
So that scene was filmed something like 24 times, and the one hug scene was an improvisation from Voldemort, and it was the one scene they decided to keep. So whatever the script was didn't have that hug, so that awkward hug was just whatever.
Well,
one of the other
scenes had Malfoy like throw a wand to Harry, right? Or was that shortly after that?
That was a deleted scene.
Yeah, such a shame.
I watched the deleted scene. It was not a shame they took it out. It was super not.
Oh, I would have loved that. That would have been full circle.
I mean, I feel like
times. Yeah.
I feel like if all of a sudden Draco runs in and gives Harry Potter a wand in between Harry and Voldemort, Voldemort's just gonna freaking kill Draco, and that's the end of it. Be like, don't you betray me,
Lucius
little
would
shit.
Sacrifice himself. Lucius would die right in front of the shot.
Not. Lucius would be like murdering Draco.
Gosh, Draco.
That's what I mean. Like, I don't feel like he gets redeemed at all. He's like, Draco, come on, we're the Death Eaters. This is the way, the one way to survive. And then the mother, Narcissa, she's the one that I don't know. I feel like kind of gets redeemed a little bit.
She's redeemed with her like
she's just like the
nod to
motherly
Harry.
love, right? Yeah, exactly. that was the scene that confused me originally because I didn't understand when I feel like the line delivery again. I'm totally jumping around here, but when she goes up to
Harry
dead
Potter?
Harry, yes, thank you, and she says, "Draco, is he dead?" I don't know. I feel like the line delivery there, it just posed it like she was
Yeah.
asking Draco.
That's I don't get it. Can you guys explain it to
It's
me? I
because-
watched the shooting 5 times and I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
I had
Why
to
is
rewind
he-
it because I didn't understand, but it's because she's asking Harry if Draco's alive, and then he nods,
Oh my god.
and then she's like, "Oh, okay, we're a team now. He's dead."
Jesus, I watched that
Yeah.
scene
I
so
was
many
so
times.
confused.
It did
Yeah,
not
no,
make
totally.
any sense to me.
I think it's the line delivery, honestly, just the way that she says it. It's as if she's like asking Draco, "Is he alive?"
Oh, 100%.
So
But Harry,
strange.
even in his weak state, he still knows exactly what she's saying. So
Yeah.
good for him.
I took us another place in this film. I'm sorry.
Anything on Gringotts? I mean, I don't know how much there's really not much that goes on there story wise. I mean, we get a Horcrux. I guess we could mention that. What the second, or I don't know what Horcrux is this? Do they have numbers? This would be the
There's
fourth
the
one, I guess.
ring, the diary, the
locket.
necklace,
Yeah.
locket. Yeah, so this would be the fourth.
Yeah, and so this is Helga Hufflepuff's thing, right? Is that because each one is like something from one of the heads of Hogwarts, right?
Yeah.
So this is
Hufflepuff's
her
cup, her
Yeah.
chalice.
Yeah, I feel like all of the Horcruxes have a big story element to them, except for this one. It feels like it's just a thing that Bellatrix has. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? It seems to be like a bit of the outlier, or like it was just kind of like, shit, I guess I need one from each house. Hufflepuff is so boring. I'm just gonna make theirs the really boring one.
Yeah, we don't really. Well, what the tiara? I don't remember the diadem.
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 We get the story for that one and the journal, the ring.
Mhm.
I mean, we don't necessarily get a big story on the necklace.
Well, actually, the ring, I was confused. What is the ring exactly? Is that honestly the Gryffindor thing?
No, that's like Voldemort's family ring, I believe.
Oh, okay.
It had the resurrection stone in it. Right?
Originally. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I totally missed that. plot
So
point.
that's why Dumbledore put it on. But it was because it was a Horcrux around it, he got cursed.
right. And so I
Mm.
guess that makes the locket the Gryffindor, Godric Gryffindor's thing. I guess
I
that
don't
would.
know.
I guess that would make sense
Harry
since they're going to
Potter is the
Godric's.
Godric Gryffindor.
Since they're going to Godric's
Horcrux.
Hollow and stuff to find it, I guess, or figure out stuff about it. Maybe that's related. It must be though, I guess.
I thought they just went to Godric's Hollow for like Harry. He's like, I just want to see my family. I just want to see where they are.
No, they were going to find the locket.
Yeah, we discussed that. I remember.
Okay, there you go. Check out last episode for a refresher, Kirklin.
It was a whole week ago, man. Give Kirkland a break.
Thank you.
So Marvelo's Tom Riddle's
Marvelo.
diary, Marvelo's gauntlet ring. So it was the family ring.
yeah.
Salazar Slytherin's locket, Helga Hufflepuff's cup. Oh my goodness. Rowan Ravenclaw's diadem, Harry Potter, and then Nagini. So
Harry
there-
Potter. He's the Gryffindor Horcrux.
I guess Potter's the. Yeah.
That's interesting. I thought every house had one. I guess not. You learn something new every day.
You do learn something new every day.
I like that this is kind of skipping ahead as well.
What about Professor Quirrell? Was he part of Gryffindor?
I think
No,
he was.
he's a
He was
Hufflepuff.
from.
He's a Hufflepuff.
He's a Hufflepuff. You think?
I'm gonna Google it. He just seems like a Hufflepuff.
Isn't he one of the Bulgarians?
That's not a house.
I mean, Gryffindor, you had the sword. Wasn't a Horcrux, but it was
He was a
still
Ravenclaw.
fairly used. Oh, that's unfortunate.
I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like he's a poser Ravenclaw though, right? Like he's like, I'm definitely Ravenclaw, right, guys? And they're like, no, dude, you're not. You don't belong here. Go to Hufflepuff house with
Yeah.
Dylan, hanging out with Dylan in Hufflepuff's common room. That's where he should.
And your
be.
cup, your chalice.
Yeah, about just drinking out of our chalice. I like this is skipping ahead to the end of the goblet's lifespan, but I like that Hermione is the one to destroy it. Because obviously Ron gets the kill on the locket, Harry gets a couple, and Neville gets one of his own. But I like that Hermione gets to destroy one of the Horcruxes as well,
Mhm.
even
So-
if it's just the random one.
Yeah, so I have a note for this too that so Dumbledore destroys one, Ron destroys one, Hermione destroys one, Neville gets to destroy one, Voldemort destroys one, and then Harry does 2. So it's actually it really what I was reading online is a lot of people say it was supposed to be all encompassing about how much they're always, you need other people, you can't do this on
Mhm.
your own. So they had all these other people destroying Horcruxes as well, so it wasn't just all on Harry. So,
Yeah,
interesting.
even if like the locket, for example, is like Harry just kind of giving Ron a freebie, it's still like, I don't know, I think it's still a nice character moment that he
Well-
lets him do that. It's he does it for a reason, obviously, to make Ron feel important to the mission.
It's the exact same thing that Ron does to Hermione, so he can get some action. He's like, "Ooh, this is my one play to secure it. Just let her destroy the
this
Horcrux."
evil goblet. Yeah.
I mean, it worked.
Pathway to
mean-
any girl's heart, of course.
They're only supposed to be 17. There's not really much else on the mind at that age for boys,
That's true.
especially not Instagram.
The
according to
world's
Taylor.
over.
I was thinking all about Yu-Gi-Oh back in the day, so
That was still up to a couple days ago.
What
We were
happened?
playing that at Target, man.
What changed? What happened a couple days ago?
I don't know, wedding photos,
Crickets.
wedding something.
probably it was definitely wedding related.
All right, moving us along here. We get to Hogsmeade, as Kirklin said. We get introduced to Aberthorn. And have we heard of him before this point? This is Dumbledore's brother. Have we heard of him up to this point? Because I feel like he was kind of just... It's like Sirius Black's brother, for example. We talked about that last episode. It's like, oh yeah, he was actually mentioned a couple times. And I was like, oh, I kind of forgot about that. But is Aberthorn the same thing where he's maybe loosely mentioned, or like Dumbledore mentions a brother? Or, I mean, I think it's specifically that Dumbledore really doesn't talk about him, but has he come up before? Do you guys remember?
I don't think he does. No. Maybe in the
Doesn't ring
books.
any bells to me. I definitely never heard of him.
Taylor's like, I've seen this movie 10 times and never heard of him.
Never heard of him.
What do you think of him, Taylor?
I think it's hard because when he appears and you see him, it's like, oh, you're not Dumbledore. Damn, it makes you like miss Dumbledore. At least that's how I take it. But I love that he gets to flex his power, because when the Battle of Hogwarts is popping off, he's totally just dishing out damage. So it's cool to know there's another Dumbledore to actually like be a powerhouse.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine he's just as strong as Albus, but
I
his
don't think
cooking
he is.
apparently
I don't
was
think
not
he
as
is.
strong.
You think he's as strong as Albus, the greatest wizard of all time?
Well, it's their bloodline, right? So I mean, wouldn't they both be like equals?
I feel like
I
No,
think the
that's-
bloodline maybe
well,
helps,
look
but
at-
I think it's more than that, right?
Look at Lily and Petunia.
there you go. Great example. Petunia's a sour grape.
Sour grape with no magical
mean,
powers.
I
Yeah.
will say though that Dumbledore did have the advantage of having the strongest wand, which helps. But still, I feel
That's-
like he's trained more. I feel like he's more practiced. Where Aberthorn, I think, kind of just gets drunk with the boys on the
But
weekend. and isn't
Aberthorn,
really
did you
practiced.
see what he
Oh,
did to
yeah,
the
definitely.
Dementors though? That one spell, he just sends them all back to the Mines of
'Cause
Moria.
he was thinking
with
about
that.
drinking with the boys. That was his
Drinking
happy
with the
memory.
boys, yeah.
He's powerful, but I don't know if I picture him doing the crazy shit that Dumbledore was doing in the last 2 movies.
The only thing I would not give
Like,
him
do you think
over
he can forge that
Dumbledore.
water ball and
Oh
put
yeah,
Voldemort in
he
it?
could. The only
You
thing
think
I
so?
won't give him
Could be
over
beer.
Dumbledore is his cooking, specifically because Seamus says not more about the Force cooking. I hope.
Always comes back to Seamus.
So he was apparently part of the Order of the Phoenix, but other than that, it doesn't look like he was really mentioned.
Yeah, he mentions that, but I don't. But we didn't hear of that in the when they're at the Black residence. Like we don't hear about that. We don't hear his
I
name.
don't
or
think
anything.
so.
Maybe he's in like a picture in the background. I could see that being the case, like in Dumbledore's office or something. Maybe his name's written on a plaque somewhere.
Or when
Was he-
Sirius shows him the picture of the Phoenix, the Order, or something like that. But yeah, I don't think he's
Yeah,
mentioned.
true. He might be in that picture. Yeah, that's a good point.
Was he too extreme and got kicked out of the Order? Is that what happened, or?
Well, I
It's
think
too
he was still in
too
it till the
powerful?
bitter end.
Oh, I see.
I think it's just like not all of them would show up for the group meetings because, of course, he was busy drinking with the
He
boys in Hogsmeade.
definitely was. Yeah, he was definitely not wanting to be a part of anything because he was very much like,
He's
you know,
bitter.
why put? Yeah, he was bitter. Why even put like try? You know, old Dumbledore had you on some like bollocks quest or something like that. Like he didn't have any
Mhm.
faith, right?
Yeah, I actually really. I mean, he's kind of a whatever throwaway character, just kind of a oh wait, Dumbledore had a brother. But I do like the conversation between him and Harry. I think it sheds a lot of light on the Dumbledore character that I've had so many problems with throughout these movies, but I think actually came together in a really nicely bowed, tied up way in this last, particularly this movie. I think it all comes together, and I think Aberthorn really shed some light of that by saying that. Well, he's asking Harry, you know, what he knows about his quest, like what he has to do to finish all this off, and Harry's like, well, I don't really know too much. And Aberthorn's like, well, you know, why didn't Dumbledore share anything with you? And he's kind of pitting Harry against his trust for Dumbledore by just talking about the lack of information that Dumbledore shared with him, which is interesting because I was complaining about that so much, but it really is something that was incredibly intentional. And I still think the transition to the Dumbledore in 3 and 4 was really sloppy, but at least that part of the character where he's hiding a lot from Harry, holding back information and not wanting to get too close, all that stuff is like completely justified and explained in this last 2 or 3 movies, but particularly this one, it really ties it up nicely. So I think the Aberthorn scene works to its benefit in that way, and Harry kind of stands up for himself as well, which I think is perfect. So I like the scene, even if he's kind of a random character to just kind of get added in the last hour of the movie.
Did you know about his sister ahead of time?
What do you mean, like?
Because like their whole falling out involved with their sister, right? And that was a whole nother like plot line that I didn't know until, you know, getting to this movie.
Right?
Didn't
Yeah,
they
I
mention her
think
in an earlier film, or am I totally mistaken?
I don't remember her either. To be
Okay.
honest, I feel like Dumbledore doesn't really share that
He
kind
tells
of personal
nothing to
information.
anybody
Yeah.
in those
Okay,
movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's also another plot point. What do you guys think of that one? I honestly kind of forgot about that. It seems like an odd little point to throw on there.
I actually really liked it because it added to like the disdain between Albus and Aberforth. Is that his name?
Aberthorn, I think.
Aberthorn.
No, it is Aberforth.
Is it
Okay, thank
actually?
you. Dylan's throwing
Oh,
me for a loop.
That's what I wrote in my
Aberforth.
notes at least.
That's their
So-
other brother.
You gotta watch it with. Gotta add those subtitles.
Nobody mentions him.
I did use
Yeah.
subtitles for that scene when Narcissa talking to Harry in the fucking woods, and it didn't help me much.
Yeah, so I really like that detail because it added to like it seemed like from what Aberforth said, she really looked up to Albus, like she was like his world basically, and then something that was Albus's fault led to her demise, and then it seemed like Aberforth just kind of blames him for that, which like just in that one like little interaction, I just feel like it fleshed out these characters a lot, which was something nice for a character that is literally just added into this entire series for just the final hour or wherever it is when he gets in there. So I really like that detail, and for the character, you know, as a whole in the scene, I totally agree with what Taylor said. Like the first couple times I've seen this movie, where I just was like, oh, it actually is Albus. Because like I don't know, the first time I watched these when I was a little kid, I'm like, there's no way that Dumbledore could actually be dead. Like I feel like I was just so innocent of being like, there's no way a main character can die. You know, like all the good guys are gonna survive. It's gonna be all happy. Remus is gonna make it. Tonk's gonna make it. Like everyone's gonna be good. Man, was I thrown for a loop. So I feel like maybe I was just in denial. And then when they first were like, get in here, Potter, or whatever he says, I'm like, holy shit, it's Albus. But then it's not. It's like, fuck this guy. He's not Albus. So I feel like that was my like immediate feelings towards the character on the first couple of viewings. But now, I don't know, just dissecting it a bit more and not getting so emotional. I really like him. I feel like he's a fun little addition because he's not replacing Albus like Taylor might think on the similar power level. But just, I don't know, just of someone in the family to just kind of replace all the characters that we lose throughout the series, let alone in this film. Because there's a lot of deaths in this film.
Mhm.
And a lot of them happen very, very fast. And that was an issue I kind of had.
Yeah, a lot of off-screen deaths. That seems to be the Harry Potter go-to. I guess it's maybe to keep the rating. Although someone falls from a massive height into a, burning pile of rubble. So I feel like what's going on with your ratings now? Like that's pretty brutal. But
Even that Snape scene, that was like, ooh, it's
Yeah.
pretty graphic. It was
True,
shot
and-
very
yeah.
well, but
there's a lot of brutal deaths. So it's weird that a lot of them just go unnoticed.
absolutely.
Any more
Are
thoughts
we
on that
talking
part?
about his death now? Is that where
Or
we?
who?
This is what I do.
Snape's-
I just throw out like key points from different parts of the movies. Just totally take-
Before we get to Snape's death, like let's start with like
Yeah, I
his
feel like
first
that's
scene.
much later on.
yeah.
Like when he appears and he's summoned all basically the students and everything. I think that whole scene was crazy because he plays the bad guy very, very well here. Obviously, how we know his role, but that moment when he pulls his wand on Harry, and when McGonagall steps in front and he withdraws his wand back for a second, like it's just you can feel the torment just in this guy's soul. You really
Yeah.
do.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. He's just forced to be that bad guy, and he plays it so well. And like you said, Taylor, it's just I love that scene. That's probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire series. Actually, just like the stand down. Even before that, when Harry like confronts him and just like berates him in front of the whole school, like how dare you stand where he stood? Like that is such a powerful scene. Especially because like no one else knew that Snape killed Dumbledore, right? Like Harry's basically just telling the whole world in that instant, and then like McGonagall's kind of finding out all at once. It's like holy shit, she's getting pissed off, stands up there to defend Harry. I just love that scene. It's so well done. Get a quick little battle.
And then another little note on that is if anyone noticed when McGonagall does start attacking and he's like throwing her spells away, there's supposed to be like a nod that he's still technically not a full-fledged Death Eater because he throws her spells and it hits Death Eaters as opposed to like a wall
right.
or students, something like that. So he actually kills or knocks out 2 Death Eaters.
If he deflected it at some random students, that wouldn't be good for him. That would.
Oh no, that would not
be
help his
bad.
conscience.
No.
I laughed so hard because I feel like this was the first time I like recognized that they were talking about like these 2 Death Eaters of like, oh yeah, they're terrible, they're torturing kids and all these things. And I'm like, what the fuck? I don't remember these characters at all. And then they don't even say a word. They literally die just because Snape's like deflecting the 2 spells, and then they just deck the Death Eaters. I'm like, oh, it's all for them. Just like when Neville was like talking about them, like, oh yeah, there are these new mini bosses that we're gonna interact with. Nope, they just get marked in the next scene. I thought that was kind of funny.
I agree with everything you guys said. I'll add on that. I think it's such a great character moment for McGonagall to really stand up for the kids there, stand up for Harry, and fight back. I feel like she's pretty like in the first movie or first couple movies, it can be kind of a hard ass on Harry and Ron in particular. But I still think she is a very like motherly figure, and I think it's awesome that she stands up for everyone there and kind of turns all the lights on and gets everyone rallied up. I also when Snape does like this little 3-point turn where he's like almost cartwheeling into his cape and then he flies out the window. That looks so good. Like that is, that's a video game animation like 101 right there. I want that in like every game. It looks so good when he's doing the little dip and dive and then just out the window. And then the thing that I thought was pretty surprising is after Harry kind of reveals himself, the one like Slytherin girl is like, get him, who's gonna get him, or something like that. And then after that whole exchange with Snape, McGonagall sends everyone from Slytherin to the dungeon. What the fuck? That's like, I get it, it's supposed to be like the bad person house, but I feel like at this point, if they have this strong feeling that Slytherin is just complete psychopaths and murderers, then why do they not disband the house right then and there? It makes no sense that it continues on. And it does continue on because in the epilogue, the kids are like, I don't want to be in Slytherin. It's like, why is Slytherin still a house? At this point, you guys got to realize that
think
is
it
when you
was-
disband it.
I think it was just that year, right? Like that.
It's a
that
bad
gr-
year.
Yeah, it was a
No,
bad year.
That's
of students.
7 years. She sends all 7 years of those students, all of them to the
Yeah, those
dungeon.
first years were Slytherin. There, like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
I should have picked Gryffindor.
I love snakes. It's fun. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, at the end of the day, though, they're just sitting pretty in the dungeon while everyone else is dying, fighting for Hogwarts, and they just get to like walk out afterwards and be like, "Well, 150 points for Slytherin, please."
What if they're still down there?
they
Yeah, I
probably
think they all
are.
died down there. Just a pile of bones.
New round of ghosts when the next year comes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely had an issue with that. It was just like you can't just banish an entire like just house to the dungeons like that. 'Cause like you just mentioned, like there's first years that have not done anything. Like maybe just send this group. I don't
Yeah,
know.
like even if that house is supposed to be bad people, I find it hard to believe that every single one of them would just actively kill all the other students and the teachers. Like they would be like, "Oh, I'm going to side with these people who are vampires and murderers and I don't know, are employing like all these foul beasts and spiders to kill everyone at the school." Like I find it hard to believe that all of them are that far gone. Like obviously there's all the kids of the Death Eaters and they're pretty messed up, Crabs and Goyles and Dracos of the world. But I don't know. I felt like that was a bit of a drastic play by McGonagall. But you know, she had an inclination to do it and she did it, and I respect her for it.
What did Filch say? Did he say ma'am or mom? Because like, where am I taking a mom?
Yeah, I was
The
wondering about that.
subtitles said MA little apostrophe AM.
Hmm.
So ma'am,
Ma'am.
but I
Yeah.
swear he said mom. Even
Yeah, in my head canon, that's
it's
that's
like mommy.
daughter. I can't speak. Mother son right there.
Have we seen Filch in the last couple movies?
He wasn't in part 1, I don't believe.
Well,
'Cause
no,
they
I mean
didn't
there's no
go there.
Hogwarts in part 1, so
Yeah.
definitely not. And then I mean he's probably
must
somewhere
be,
in
yeah.
Half-Blood Prince doing some annoying stuff. Can't tell you what, but something. Where are we jumping next? I feel like, I mean, from here on out, it's just like battling for like an hour, and then there's like all the story stuff at the end.
Could
where
go
do you-
like
where do you guys wanna jump?
Snape's death now. If you want to go progressively with him.
Well, next would kind of be the Battle of Hogwarts starting, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Because after that, McGonagall goes out and wakes up all the statues, and her like
it's pretty
giddy
epic.
excitement. I've always wanted to use that spell.
Yeah, I liked that scene. That's good.
Yeah. And then everyone starts to put up their incantations. Basically just preparing. I mean, kind of get a bunch of people that appeared out of nowhere, like Molly Weasley and Lupin and Shacklebolt and everyone are just there
Mhm.
now.
Conveniently, yeah.
The Weasleys like had an army ready to go. There was all Weasleys in that army.
They've been building that army for like 20
That's a whole
years.
brigade for
Mhm.
sure.
They've been growing it. Baseball team.
Yeah.
One
lost a
character that
member.
seemed to be oddly absent to me was Hagrid. He shows up way later on in the movie when Harry's in the forest, and I think that's the first time he shows up. And I guess he was just like imprisoned or something. It felt weird that for a character that seems to be really important, at least he's very important to Ron, Hermione, and Harry. He does get a little bit of a scene at the end, but I felt like he was oddly missing from this movie. Did you guys feel the same way? Or I mean, I feel like Hagrid hasn't really had much plot stuff going on for like at least 2 or 3 movies now, but I still feel like he's got the heritage to be like a character that was maybe deserving of a scene or 2 more. Am I alone on that? Do you guys agree?
I would agree.
I agree with you as well. Yeah, because like especially in that forest scene when he's like there, and I'm like, oh right, Hagrid. Like where were you?
It's funny. I like in my notes I wrote Hagrid ? And then like 5 minutes
Yeah.
later that scene I was like, well, I guess that's where he was. He was in the forest.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've seen him.
We also have a new henchman for Draco. Don't know what's going
Oh.
on there, and it's funny because
So
like
that's
Could just
what's
be
the
because he
story
grabbed
there?
2 random people.
What's that?
I mean, maybe he just grabbed two random people.
Well,
He
there
saw
was
Crab
issues though with the. Oh, you
Yeah,
know,
of course.
okay, yeah.
I'm just trying to like, in
She's
this.
cheesing me.
I mean, if you think about it, he's like, okay, well, there's Crab. I'm just gonna grab him and this other random guy.
Blaze, come on. They talk about him in Order of the Phoenix, I think. And maybe I phrased that wrong. They don't
It's a
talk
really
about
sweet.
him,
It's
but
a really
he's
sweet
in a
name,
scene.
though.
It is a cool name for sure.
Please.
No,
Very,
I just love it because it makes me think of that one meme. It's like, what the hell? When did Goyle turn into Oh no, so sorry, what's his name? Crab. Which one's Crab? Which one's
I
Goyle?
think Goyle is the one that's in the movie.
Okay, so they're like, oh, where was I when Crab turned black? Oh, it's just nope, that's Blaze.
Yeah. It's weird. I'm sure it was like some scheduling thing or some specific thing with the actor because it's such a minor character. But it's funny that in what movie was it? The third one, where the actor who played Goyle was just like randomly missing, and then they had some other random guy whose name was
Yeah.
probably like not Blaze but like Fire or something, and he was just in there. And now it's like the reversed characters here for the finale. And Goyle's, I mean, that's what I was alluding to earlier. Goyle's death is pretty fucking brutal.
I was thinking though, like he's like more evil than Draco ever was in this film alone.
Yeah,
He's
he
throwing
is.
around unforgivable curses. He's doing some crazy fire serpent spell that he obviously was not prepared for because he cannot control
Yeah.
that thing.
And I mean, his parents were Death Eaters too. We know that.
Yes,
that
that's
much
right.
at least. So, but yeah, his pretty brutal death. Yeah, like you're saying, I think it's fairly deserved out of all of them. But he even throws him a Vadicadabra out. He's ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
He's down to
Yeah.
kill. But yeah, I thought that was, I don't know, maybe the most brutal death in like all of these movies. Maybe Bellatrix is a little bit worse, but I don't know. It's up there for sure. So
I would
Mad Eye
say
Moody
Snape's.
dies off screen. Goyle goes out in a blaze of glory, to use.
I'd say Snape's
fun.
because he just gets jacked by his snake. And like, how many bites was that? Plus,
True.
whatever thing
don't see
Voldemort
it,
did to
though.
him.
You know,
I can feel it through the sheet
You
of glass. Yeah.
it's a loud slam. Yeah.
Hell yes. All right.
We've been talking
Anything
for a bit. You
else
guys have
on,
things you're gonna bring up?
I mean, in terms of those characters that are just teaming up with Malfoy, I mean, and their deaths, which is very, very brutal.
Did only one die, or did they both die?
I think just the one died. The other one
Okay.
hopped on the broom. I half expected, like, God, what if they pull something really shady and like push one of the heroes off their brooms? Like, that would just be horrible. But they didn't, thank God. The guy trying to like conjure up the spell clearly heard like rumors like, oh, Voldemort in the Ministry of Magic conjured a fire snake, and he's like, I'm gonna do this, and
Oh,
totally
fuck yeah.
fucked up. Yeah,
Make my
oh,
dad
fuck yeah.
proud. Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful spell, though. You got to give him credit at the very least for that.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
Mhm.
That could take a lot of casualties.
Mm-hmm.
It almost did. It took
Including
one.
himself. It did,
Yeah.
yeah. Absolutely. I don't know. Are you guys ready to jump to the Snape?
Well, I guess
Or
I'll
we
throw
got
out,
stuff in
I'll throw out
between
some
that?
quick fire things then, I guess. There's a my favorite shot out of all 8 of these movies is the Quidditch pitch just getting burned to the ground. I was so
I knew
happy
you were
when
gonna
that
say
happened.
something about that.
Let's see, what else can I throw out here? Oh yeah, so I think it must have been in Half-Blood Prince, I think it was. That random guy that gets added in who's like kind of competing with Ron in Quidditch, and he's kind of hitting on
McCormick?
Hermione. Yeah, I'm surprised he came back, and he actually had a couple lines in this movie. We don't actually know his fate, so maybe he died, maybe he doesn't, or maybe his fate is known. Maybe he is shown in this aftermath or something. I don't remember, but I thought it was interesting that of all characters, that guy gets brought back.
He was very
Interesting
happy
twist.
that Harry came through the wall. He was stood up and he cheered. Same with Lavender. Lavender was very excited, although she died.
That could have been about Ron.
No remorse.
Harry
Lavender,
actually
she
gives
also gets one of the
Lavender
most
a
brutal
hug.
deaths, I would say. as
Does
well.
he give her a hug?
Oh, he gives her a hug. Yes, I was taking note of everyone that he hugged. I'm like, oh, they're all gonna die, and half of them did.
And then this is, I guess it's kind of later on. Cho is also back.
She gives
I-
some like googly eyes to Harry throughout this film, at least a few times.
Had your
think
chance.
It's just, I don't know. I didn't take it as like a romantic thing anymore. I think they were just kind of acknowledging each other. And what I wanted to bring up was that, I talked about it's hard to picture. What movie was it when she rats? I guess it was 5, Order of the Phoenix, when she kind of rats them out. And obviously, it wasn't really her fault, but I really wanted that scene where her and Harry kind of made up in a way. I think that at the end, in the aftermath scene, when Harry's walking around, when everything's done, he looks over to Cho at one point, and they do just do a little nod at each other. And to me, that was all I needed. I just needed a little scene where they kind of acknowledge each other. And I think that was, a 5-second shot that actually went a long way for me. And Cho is not a character that you needed to wrap up her story in any way, but I actually felt like with that one little shot, they actually did. She has like a conclusive ending. Her and Harry are chill. And they kind of acknowledge each other and kind of have that respect for each other. And I thought that was, it was nice that she kind of got the time of day when 100 other characters in this movie don't. So shout outs to her. And then I don't know, we can get into Snape stuff if you guys want to get right into that.
I still have notes. We seem very excited to get to Snape, but I still have some Battle of Hogwarts stuff.
Let's do it.
So one thing that I always think is hilarious is with Neville blowing up the bridge. Just, the bridge is obviously going to blow up from out of under his feet. Why doesn't anyone, Wingardium Leviosa and just like pick him up? And like everyone's just standing there like, oh no.
And like when he nobody like goes to the edge to like see it or anything. And like even when he starts like pulling himself up, they're just standing there. It's like, is he gonna fall? Is he gonna fall? He might still fall. That wood might give out.
You can't Wingardium Leviosa a person, can you?
Hasn't it been done in one of the movies, I thought?
I don't know the answer to that.
I feel like that's some OP.
If you
They
can
did it with that
Wingardium
giant
yourself and
club.
fly.
Yeah, the club is bigger than a student, so I would imagine you could.
Well, I don't think it's about weight. I didn't know you could use, because I thought that was kind of the point of one of those evil curses, is that you can like control
they
someone's
Is
body.
Wingardium Leviosa a curse?
No,
No, there's that scene.
with the
There's the
spider.
scene when they're learning about the curses, and he's like using the curse to like fling the spider around and like torture it. And
Well, yeah, that was that was using like Crucio, so that was like I think that was Crucio or
It
one
was
of the
Crucio.
So that was moving the person around, like manipulating. But I think Leviosa is very different in that
Just
sense.
to float.
Yeah, just to float. So I think it would be okay.
Jenny should have just crucioed him.
Because
Right.
but can you
Crucio,
pick someone up and swing him into a wall? And isn't that the same thing?
but Crucio is supposed to be like, people claim that they were under the Crucio curse being controlled when they were like using Avada Kedavra and killing people. Where I think if you're just making someone float, I don't know if you could like float someone into a wall. It's more just kind of like a ooh.
Right. I feel like if you could do that though, wouldn't they do that a lot? Like I feel like that's really useful.
I mean, almost like
You
an
say that about a
invisibility
lot.
cloak.
Yeah.
Like an
Or
invisibility
apparate
cloak.
or all the other spells in this movie.
yeah, but I mean, anyone can do a Wingardium Leviosa. Harry's the only one who has the cloak.
So, well, I mean, Polyjuice potion. We've talked about this. All of a sudden, now it's really useful. But for the first, after you see it in, the Chamber of Secrets, you would think it would be useful in the third,
Harry,
fourth, fifth movie.
I feel like Harry would have used Wingardium Leviosa on Dumbledore when he's falling off the watchtower and just kind of, oh, you're all good, buddy. I got you.
Oh,
here."
he's already
So
dead,
sit
though.
Down on the ground.
Yeah, he already got hit.
If someone like conjures Avada Kedavra at you and you conjure Wingardium Leviosa, I don't think it's gonna help.
But if you're Harry in that situation, you try if you can.
No, if you're
Take her right
Harry
on
in
the
that
chest.
situation, all you do is Expelliarmus, because
In
that's
my
all
mind,
Harry
you can't
does.
Wingardium Leviosa a person. You can only use it on objects.
I-
Anyway.
all I'm saying is there's got to be some kind of something they could have
I
done
agree.
to like
There's 100 other things they could have done other than stand there and like, oh, I guess he's dead. Well, sucks.
at least
I like that
go
guy,
to the edge of the bridge and help
Yeah.
him up.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah, many things.
The other one, we didn't really talk Ron and Hermione going to the chamber. And
Yeah. I loved it.
they come back with what, like 2 fangs? Like, why not every fang? Like, just stuff your pockets.
Grab one of
boys.
those ribs, make a bone
Yeah.
sword.
You'd think she does have an
Fuck yeah.
infinite
Full
pocket
mail.
thing, so
Just
why
like-
not use it?
A helmet, yeah, chest piece.
What I
That's
do
what
love
would
about
defeat them.
what I do love about that is Ron speaking parcel tongue. I think that's actually a really great little note in there that makes sense since Ron is, slept next to Harry for like 7 years in their dorm room and he's probably heard a shit ton of parcel tongue. And I think it makes sense that he'd be able to get a few words out there. And so I thought that was a nice touch. And it was a good thing for Ron as a guy who, for some reason, is shown as like weak and kind of unable to do a lot of things a lot of time. I thought that was great that like Hermione would not have been able to do that. Most people, like no one else at Hogwarts other than Harry and Voldemort. But I thought it was great that he was able to do that.
I mean, I imagine he's probably just saying like, un fromage de baguette.
Yeah, it's
cheese
probably
bread.
nonsense, but
Yeah.
that
good
door
enough for the
got
door,
fooled.
yeah. It's like, welcome home,
The
Master.
door doesn't judge. It's like, well, he tried. He's been using Duolingo. He's fine.
Would that make him the heir of Slytherin? If he's opening the Chamber of Secrets.
Holy shit.
Now
Let's
we're
get the
getting
next
into
8
the real.
movies going. That's the second plot. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get Ron's kid as the next heir. We've got Basilisk 2.0 going on. I really hate that kiss. It just seems.
Oh, that was passion. That
Oh,
was
I like
hot and
that.
heavy.
you
That was
guys
good as the Harry Hermione one from the last movie.
just seems so awkward and forced.
That's perfect. That's what it should be. 17 years old. Their first kiss.
Yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay. Solo on that one. Next is so they did a like progression, if anyone noticed, about what they face in the movies. So when they're out fighting, the first thing they run into is a troll. So like the troll in the dungeon. Then there's a bunch of giant spiders, obvious to Aragog. And then the werewolf eating one of the students. And then Dementors. So it's all these
that's
things
clever.
that they faced.
Ooh.
Nice.
And then Umbridge comes in, takes down a couple kids. Movie 5.
Oh, I'm bringing up Umbridge later. Just so you know.
Umbridge gets her own section in this discussion. So I thought that was a really cool little call out to all the things that they'd faced all kind of
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
together in this battle.
I didn't
Definitely.
notice that it was in order, so I'm glad that you brought that up. It's a cool touch.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the main things I have for that part of the battle. So if we want to move down the storyline to Snape, as everyone seems excited for that.
The Half-Blood Prince,
He is. Where do we want to start with this whole piece? Because there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, it's interesting because we did talk a lot about this in the last 2 movies, really, and looking forward at what was going to happen. But I think all of that is really well done. I like that him and Harry kind of have that moment together, and Harry's kind of frantically yelling at Hermione to get something, get a little vial, something like that. And I think the flashbacks. Well, there was a couple of questions I had about it, but for the most part, I think it worked really well and helps to round out all the missing pieces that we had. I forget if it's there. Someone else maybe mentions it at some point that Snape was the one who put the fake sword in Bellatrix's vault. So I think that's a good touch. And then obviously you guys kind of touched on the Patronus in the last movie that helped lead them to the sword, but that's kind of, it's not explicitly mentioned, but they just say that he has the same Patronus, so it's kind of, you can put it together that way.
And it was the same as Lily's, correct?
Yeah, which what exactly is this? Is that just meant to mean that they're like soulmates or something? Like what exactly does that mean? I was curious.
Just that he loves her.
So, but I mean, I thought is a Patronus something you choose, or is it kind of just naturally you just have a Patronus like just because of your soul or whatever?
I don't think you choose it.
You don't choose it.
It chooses you. The classic line.
Like the wand.
So, yeah. So I don't know. Was his like I don't know. So I guess he just didn't have. I guess he met Lily when he was pretty young or something. But I don't know, if you love someone, that doesn't mean that you have the same Patronus as them. That's not consistent with other characters.
I mean, James
Or
has.
maybe it is. I don't know.
James has a deer. Lily has a doe. So they're matching. And then Ron has a weasel, and Hermione has an otter, which is part of the weasel family. So they're
Okay.
matching. So
What about
No.
Neville and Luna? They get together, right? What is their? We see them at some point, right? I can't remember.
One's a goldfish, one's a clownfish.
Maybe that is consistent. I guess we don't really see many Patroni in these movies.
So that means Snape loves Harry because Harry's got a buck and Snape has a doe.
No, Taylor. It means that he loves Lily.
Okay.
I guess I wonder if there's more
Even-
to it, but I guess
Yeah.
So does yours change? Like, what if you're rocking like a a bullfrog, and then you meet, and then let's say I meet Kirklin and I fall in love, and his is like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Like, does
Oh,
mine
yeah.
change then at that point? I thought if you kind of have one, that's kind of yours.
So Ginny has a horse. So I mean that's kind of similar to a doe. Right?
Wow,
That's a
I'm looking for
stretch.
a donkey. Yeah.
they're mammals. I'll give you that.
Luna has a hare.
Just a like a wig, or I'm
Whose wig
kidding.
was it? And what about Neville is he's a frog kind of guy. Oh, he has the frog as a pet, but
He's got
A
a
single hair.
non-corporeal. So he
Oh.
apparently is the only main character who does not take on the form of an animal.
what is his? Sorry.
He doesn't have an animal form.
It's a Dementor.
Doesn't take a shape. Does not have a spirit animal.
Oh, it's
that would
just
be like his
Voldemort.
grandmother, Bogart.
So
Poor Neville.
I don't know. You take it how you want, I
Um,
guess. Maybe
yeah.
that's just maybe you can change it.
What was Lupin's?
I think you could guess.
I don't remember because like Lupin's was just like the
Lupin's
bright
was
light.
being a shitty father figure to Harry. That's what his
I mean,
persona is.
he's a werewolf. I think you could guess.
Is that actually
He's
it? It's
aware.
actually
A
is
camel.
a wolf.
It's a wolf, yeah.
Camel. Wow, that's legendary.
Camel.
I
for it.
just with
Just
that,
like you could probably guess McGonagall's too.
A cat.
Giraffe.
Cat.
Okay, it's like giraffe. Really?
Yeah, just with the
Safari up here.
Patronus, when Harry's in limbo with Dumbledore, he's like, Professor, Snape's. I was trying to get into character. Oh. Yeah, he's like, Professor, Snape's Patronus was a doe, just like my mother's. Curious, isn't it? And then he's like, I don't think it's curious at all. I like want a solid answer. I'm like, okay, like what does that mean? Does that mean that they're just super compatible, more compatible than a doe and a buck, whatever, a stag? There you go. Deers. I don't know. I felt like that whole thing was left a little unclear. Sounds like it just try not to put too much stock into it, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I had the same question. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like it could be love, but also maybe not. It's
Yeah.
something deeper. But then there's like some sort of soul love triangle between Snape, Lily, and James then, because they're all rocking the deers and the does. So
So according to the Wizarding World, so the official site, you can change what your Patronus is.
nice.
Is it like intentional or just like I love this person now, so mine naturally becomes more like theirs, or I get evil, so it
so-
turns into a
So
bat.
maybe, thought, it is produced from the concentration of happiness and a single memory. So maybe he's pulling the happiness from his memories with Lily,
There
and
you
that's
go.
why it's a doe.
There
Just
you
like
go.
when Harry cast his, he thought it was his dad, so he was pulling thoughts of his dad, who was also a stag.
Damn, I like that. I'm gonna go with that in my head canon.
New headcanon, nice. Look at
Yeah,
me
good one.
doing
Like it.
so.
We lost the
Uh,
boat, man.
We
Well,
did, and now that he's gone, I just want to mention that that's not the correct who's, right? It should be H-O W-H-O-S-E.
Who is Boat? Who is
Yeah.
Boat? Was it?
So I don't want to call him out live, but I want the YouTube audience to know that
Yeah,
I noticed it.
he's watching live right now on his phone.
I like the flashback, as I mentioned. I think it sheds light on all the information that we needed. My one question with it is that we see that scene again where Voldemort kills Lily. Why is that in Snape's memory? He wasn't there to witness that scene. He was like outside, I guess. Maybe that's why, or he was nearby or something. But he was not in the room looking at Lily's face when she died. And so, I mean, I think they do it as like a callback, but I think it should have been taken out because it feels like, well, we're supposed to be in Snape's memory. Why are we seeing just other random fabricated scenes? So that part was a bit weird to me, but everything else worked. And I think the tension buildup of it from them being kids all the way to the end of Lily's life, I think it kind of works. And it's, it's a pretty short little sequence, but it kind of pieces everything together.
So I'll just throw this out now because it kind of fits with us talking about these memories. So just an extract here. Movie watchers don't get to see Snape and Lily meeting James and Sirius for the first time on the Hogwarts Express, where they argue about which Hogwarts house is best. Another important memory not shown is Snape apologizing to Lily for calling her a mudblood, while Lily tells him that she is tired of making excuses for him. Several other memories don't appear in the film, including revelations that Petunia actually wrote to Dumbledore in the hopes that she could attend Hogwarts. So we actually do miss out on some other kind of background between the full Marauders and everything like that too. That being said, I don't necessarily know that those scenes are necessary, but in the books there is a lot more that goes into it. I do think that this is such an important piece, though, because it really shows that arc for Snape, right? He went from being this bad guy to everything that he's done for the past 7 movies has all been, the long haul to protect Harry because he loved his mother. So I think it's a great scene. I know there's a debate on if that really redeems Snape or if he's still a shit character, but I like Snape. I think that his arc is, well done enough. As much as he can love this child that's not his own and do the best he can in the situation he's in, I think it all really ties together nicely. And it's one of those things that it is fun to look at and kind of watch for as we've been rewatching them.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting you bring that up. That's like a controversial thing. Is I feel like from all the discourse I've ever heard, is people really love Snape, and I think what makes him great is that there isn't really like a clear answer. Like he really is in that gray area of being a good guy, also being a bad guy, but doing it for maybe the right reasons. But he's also just a really sad and broken man underneath all of it. And like everything he's doing is built on this really tragic foundation that he just like couldn't get over Lily. And he his whole life was just in pursuit of her, even though that was just a fool's dream at that point. And I think that's what makes him so great is he's just such a flawed character. But they show you everything. And some of those extra scenes could have been nice. Like maybe, I don't know, that scene with the Marauders. I don't know. I feel like they're so underdeveloped in these movies that I don't know if that would have been worth it to show, if that would have filled in all the blanks, or if it would have just been kind of not needed. I think I'd probably lean more it's not needed, but I feel like Snape is generally seen as a loved character. At least from my perspective, I've always seen it that way.
Yeah, I really, really like that whole flashback sequence of just, I love when they would show like a scene from like movie 1 when Snape's just like shit talking Harry and you're like, fuck that guy, at the time. And then they would show that sequence. Your father was useless and like all these things. And then it shows like, I don't know, just like that mixing of everything. I thought that was really well done. Because maybe you missed, I don't know, an interaction between Harry and him from movie 2 or whatever it might be. So they just like have it right then and there so that just dumb it down for the viewer. Like, hey, this guy was actually a good guy the whole time. Remember this shitty scene, Especially like like you can imagine while these movies were coming out, not everyone was like going back to watch those movies. So I think it's just a really smart thing to include those scenes in this one, because I don't think it made it too long of showing all that stuff. I thought it just tied it up very nicely. And yeah, and then just in regards to Snape, I like without this moment, he's just like a bad guy type character. But because of this moment, now when I watch like movie 1, movie 2, whatever it might be, I'm like, oh man, I love Snape. Like, oh, just like knowing what he's doing behind the scenes and all this heavy baggage that he's carrying. And that's like, I don't know, just thinking back on like different types of like shows or movies or stuff like that. I feel like that's kind of rare to have a character like that, that like you might really hate him early on, but then like the big redemption happens right at the end, and then it changes the way that you perceive him when you go back to watch that. I feel like that's kind of a rare thing to have. So definitely love that character.
You have to think that JK like planned this from so far before everything happened, right?
Yeah.
This is not something that could be a last minute decision.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of things, you know, it talked about the subtle question that Snape poses in the beginning about what would I get if I mixed this, and that it like translates to I'm sorry about Lily's death or something like that, and him trying to cast spells to protect him from Quirrell and all these little things, you know, in theory should have been Dumbledore, but it's Snape. You know, she had this plan from the beginning or early on at very least.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it really works well for a rewatch too. Like it's really exciting to see Snape, even when you know everything that is that goes on in the end anyway. And I think that's something that could probably be really hard to do, especially when it's like, man, I'm on movie 1. Snape is gonna be like this until
exactly
7 movies away from now, but still it's still entertaining to have him on screen, and I think it's just dynamic in that way. And I like that he also kind of faces or shows as this guy who's protecting Draco, but really that's just misdirection in a way as well. And that's like all the way up until the last. I can't remember if it really happens in 7 part 1, but at least in number 6 that happens big time. Obviously with the vow and all that.
Well, yeah, it's interesting because even like look back to early on, like movie 2, when they had like the little dueling, he just always kind of seemed like Draco's like protector or something, because he's the head of Slytherin, you know. Obviously knows about the Malfoys and all that stuff, but like even I don't know, just other interactions in the classroom, it's clear that he's showing, I don't know, just some love towards Draco. Maybe Hermione's like lifting up her hand, and he's just like shit talking Hermione, and then like, oh, good one, Draco, you're so talented. Oh.
I do like as well that we see him trying to save Dumbledore after he put on the cursed ring, and their discussion about you have to be the one to kill me kind of pulls it all together. You know, instead of thinking Snape's this horrible guy for doing this, now it's like, oh well, he obviously had to. Did you have anything on the flashbacks, Taylor?
Yeah, I'm so happy that we got it. I mean, I just think that it's so important to Snape's character and his journey in all of these films, and his very wacky relationship with Harry. It's interesting to see the relationship he had with Lily, and how, I mean, I can't imagine how Harry would take that and just the thoughts going through his head. And you just see him kind of getting put into another house, and then here comes James, and all this stuff happens, and no matter what happened between Lily and Snape, like Snape, just as you guys have already talked about, he's always loved her. He's always been there. And just that scene where you go back in Godric's Hollow, and he's holding Lily, and Harry's just fucking screeching in the background, like it's very saddening. But yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, a baby at that age has no idea what's going on.
Just turned into a Horcrux. Yeah, he's got no clue.
That's exactly what I meant.
I mean, it messed up Dexter, right? Dexter was around that age.
Yeah,
true.
And same with his kid.
Yep.
Harriet. Took me a second.
Yeah.
I do wonder though. I'm gonna kind of jump here, but so Voldemort comes to the realization that he has to kill whoever has the Elder Wand, right? That's a misconception. So why didn't he just Avada Kedavra Snape? Why Nagini? Because then technically wouldn't Nagini be the one who killed? And then
Yeah,
wouldn't he have
That's a good
killed
point.
Nagini?
I thought it was a bit weird, but I guess since Nagini is just a snake, it's like not a person that could take the wand. I guess it has to be a person, and he issued the command. So I guess he's the closest person that issued that kill.
I mean, to me, why would you take that chance if that's your situation? It just doesn't make sense to me, is all.
He must have known, I guess. I mean, I guess I don't know how would he know. So it does feel a bit weird. I agree with you.
I know it needs to happen for the whole plot point of getting the tears, but I mean, had he just used the killing curse too, like,
I wonder if in his last moments when Harry is popping off on him in the courtyard, if he's like, is this because I got Nagini to kill? Is that why my wand is not working? Because he never really knows about the Draco thing. He never learns about that.
well, because he thinks it's the killing. He doesn't know about the disarming piece.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me,
It's
it
worth
seems
bringing up
silly.
for sure.
He kills
Yeah.
so many other people. What's it matter?
Mm-hmm.
One more person.
My last thing to say on that scene is that scene that you mentioned, Jessica, with Snape and Dumbledore, I think also sheds a lot of good conclusive statements on Dumbledore and why he chose to hold a lot of information back from Harry. Obviously, he feels that it's incredibly important for Snape to wait till the very last possible moment to reveal this information. And I like that it also is kind of the reason why Dumbledore was holding back and trying to keep his distance, is because, it's hard to look someone in the face when you know that they have to die, and especially when they're so young, and that they have to die for this quote unquote prophecy to be fulfilled. And so I like that's an amazing reason why he would hold back so much, especially in, I want to say it's in Goblet of Fire, when like Dumbledore's like away from the castle, he's off doing his experiments, and it's probably in those moments when he learns about what Harry is and that he has to die. And so it makes sense that when he's back at Hogwarts for those scenes, that he's being very distant from Harry. He's not looking him in the eye. It's because, like, shit, man, that must be hard to look him in the eye when you just recently learned the information that he has. And I don't know if that timeline exactly matches up and that's why he's acting that way. But if that is the case, which in my mind kind of makes sense, I think that fills in a lot of blanks and a lot of the issues I had on episode 4. So if you were listening to that episode and be like, Dylan, you're an idiot, this gets answered in the 8th one, maybe you're right. But also, I hadn't gotten there yet. I watched the movies one at a time, but it really does answer a lot of my questions with Dumbledore as well. Anything else on that Snape stuff? I think that's all my Snape notes.
I will just back you on that. I mean, I think that it does answer a lot of questions. I do, there's still some technical problems with Dumbledore and how he acts towards Harry, but it definitely answers some of those problems for sure.
Yeah.
And then one more just kind of piece on the Snape's death scene. So when he dies, there's actually a Gryffindor scarf hanging up in the background. This is supposed to be a reference to, in the books, Dumbledore says that he sometimes thinks that they sort students too soon. So it's supposed to be saying that, he could be a Gryffindor because of his bravery and loyalty.
Well, that ship sailed because he missed his chance with Lily and all that stuff.
Yeah, he chose Slytherin.
Yeah, why didn't he just tell the hat?
Yeah, it's that easy.
He must have felt in his heart of hearts that he was truly an evil guy.
Tom Riddle was whispering sweet nothings to him.
It's because he was so bitter about James. The hat could sense it. He's like, oh, this guy's a little asshole.
That would make sense.
Did you have another note on that scene, Jessica?
That is my notes for Snape's death scene.
So maybe a good place to go then is kind of that scene in the forest that we've already talked about a bit, but we should talk maybe a little bit more about the King's Crossing kind of What is the name of the stone? I always forget the name of this.
The resurrection.
The resurrection stone. Okay.
Because it resurrects people.
Yeah, I always think of sacrificial stone. I feel like in games that's like a word that's thrown out. Anyway, what I really liked about that scene in particular was that was the first time that it felt like I think it's Michael Gambon, I think is the name of this Dumbledore. This is the first scene where it felt like that was a scene that could have been acted by Richard Harris, the Dumbledore from the first two movies. And I don't know if that was a deliberate choice as an actor, as from the director, or if it was just kind of happened because he's supposed to be this guy who's died and now is kind of in this sedated state. But I really like that it felt like a bit of a callback to this very calm, wise Dumbledore that's just kind of standing tall, moving very slowly, talking each syllable purposeful and with no rush to get it out. And so I really liked that it seemed like a nice full circle moment for the character, but also this nod to the fact that they did have to change actors, and that's a really hard thing to do for such a major character, recasting the character, especially when you don't have a choice. And I think that was a really nice way to button that up and kind of felt like a nice way to connect the end with the beginning for that character.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I love that scene, that whole interaction, just their dialogue between each other, and just visually, it was really nice looking scene. And like when
the pure white was visually appealing.
It was visually appealing. I'm just like, oh, I'm calm here, you know. I just liked it too because last time that they were at King's Crossing, like they were just kind of like talking. You know, he was asking Harry about like his date that he had or whatever it was, and I don't know, just small dot. Like that first instant, they had business to do, so they didn't get to stay long. Whereas here, they got a longer little talk, and it just seemed calm and no worries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
This is where you find out. Sorry, Taylor.
No.
This is where you find out all about that. Technically, Harry was a Horcrux, so he didn't really need to die. You know, this piece inside of him needed to die.
Mm-hmm.
You see the little shriveling Voldemort under the bench.
I was gonna say that was pretty. He wasn't doing good.
No, not a happy baby. Not a happy baby.
So
I just want to, before you go, Taylor. Sorry, just back on Kirklin's thing about the first time at King's Cross was when Harry was just gonna learn about the Horcruxes. He was, come with me. We have somewhere to go. I'm gonna go take you on this adventure, and now it's like, everything's been destroyed except Nagini. So we're at from kind of the beginning to the end. It's kind of it is a nice tie over.
Totally.
Okay, try again, and I won't interrupt you this time.
So.
Oh yeah, and then one other thing.
Now when we have Harry obviously dying, I was always confused because I always interpreted it as, okay, he used the resurrection stone to come back. He used it on himself, basically. But then he drops it before he goes out there, right? And it's just, he doesn't actually die, but I feel like he always had like, not that he had immunity to Avada Kedavra, but in this case, since he became the Horcrux, he was immune to Avada Kedavra this whole time. So anyone that were to use it on him wouldn't have done anything this whole time. Or am I getting that wrong?
The only reason that he technically didn't die from this is because no one else would have killed the Horcrux in him. It's just Voldemort is it's attacking the Horcrux, right? It's the same as the Basilisk Fang or the Sword of Gryffindor. He has the power to destroy a Horcrux because he created them.
So
So if Lucius had have done it, it would have attacked Harry and not.
So Voldemort doing it defects to the Horcrux instead of Harry. Everyone else does it defects to Harry, not the Horcrux.
Or possibly wouldn't work because he is a Horcrux, but we wouldn't. But no one tried because it was Voldemort's orders.
Or maybe just Harry and the Horcrux lives on,
latches on to the next
his
person.
Creepy little
his glasses become.
I think Harry would have been fine if anyone else did it. It's the same when they were trying to do the spells on the locket and things in the forest, right? So I think Harry would have survived. The only reason that it's just because Voldemort did it, and Voldemort can destroy the Horcruxes because he created them. And I think that's why Harry had the option to go back, is because, I mean, technically it was just the Horcrux was dead. Did he want to go back or just kind of shrivel up and not care anymore?
I do want to put that out there. I mean, if you already like, this is just like God status. If you already have this legend to your name that you're the boy who lived, and you can go like boy who lives X2 with your title, I mean, that's causing some fear in people.
Sorry, username is already taken. That, I don't know. That's as we say, that's my headcanon about it. It's just the only reason is because Voldemort can destroy Horcruxes because he created them.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense to me as well. My really only beef with this sequence is when Harry pops the resurrection stone. 4 people pop up. And they're supposed to be the most important people to Harry, those he loved the most. Why the fuck is Lupin here? Fuck Lupin. This character is garbage. Gets no story for the last every time we see him for the last 4 years, he's just yelling at Harry for no reason. Why is he supposed to be this character that he loves as much as Sirius, as much as Lily, as much as James?
It was either him or the caretaker making a comeback from the Riddle residence.
I was gonna say Cedric. Cedric's just there.
Cedric.
I feel like Cedric would have been better there.
My
Honestly,
boy.
I would have believed it. I would have, or Dobby. Why isn't Dobby why the fuck is Lupin there, man? Such bullshit. I feel like if you want to do that, you gotta show some. That's like skipping to the answer. You gotta show some of the work, And they didn't do that for the last. We saw him for one movie where he was actually a character, and then everything after that, he just dropped a one-liner every movie, and usually was being an asshole to Harry. No, I don't believe that he's there. I don't like it.
Would have been better. Would have been better if he appeared in werewolf form.
No, wouldn't have been any better.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind having Lupin there, actually. I feel like when he was talking to Harry, it just made me go back to movie 3, and I'm like, oh, okay, nice. Yeah, those were some good moments. And then just the quick line about his son. Was it his son? Yeah. And so just that little quick snippet.
Do we ever really get mention of that fully within this? They go to make an announcement in the last one, I think it was, and then the announcement never happens. And is it ever brought up again?
No.
Lupin has 30 seconds of screen time in every movie, so no, he has no development whatsoever.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, I can expel my salt. I've said it. Fuck Lupin. I'm ready to move on. You guys have anything else on that sequence?
I love that scene. I was borderline tears, honestly. It's just such a good moment. Just from the point when Harry is leaving the castle and then kind of says goodbye to Hermione. Hermione kind of has the realization of what Harry is. Ron just kind of does the bro silence, doesn't say anything. I thought that was a little strange, but after that, when Harry just gets to the forest, it's just I don't know, the pacing, it seems slowed down, but not too slow. I just felt like it was nice. We were going where we were supposed to be going, but it still felt just ominous, just trudging alone to the forest. And then when he whispers I'm ready to die, and then he's just talking about that with his family. I don't know. I just thought that was a very heavy moment. I couldn't imagine what that's like. It's you're literally just walking your death. But yeah, overall, I just really, really like that whole sequence.
Right on.
I'm trying to remember now. Was there really any reason given why he left the stone there?
I have no idea.
In the forest, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, he knows
whole...
it's Deathly Hallows. He knows it's all important. We never see him go back and grab it. Just left in the forest for some giant to find. Yeah, the centaurs, perfect.
Yeah, it does seem a bit weird. I hadn't thought about it, but I think he obviously wouldn't have kept it. I don't think. Yeah, I wonder because he broke his wand, broke the wand at the end. drops the stone.
Unicorn
do you think
hair.
he gets rid of the cloak, or do you think that one, because of the tail, is like, oh, this one's actually fine. I can hold on to this one, but
Oh,
get
his
rid of the
son's
other
got
ones.
that for sure.
I think he's got that in the book. He does keep the Elder Wand.
Whoa.
He actually, yeah,
That's
he
a big
actually
change.
uses it to fix his Phoenix core. So, like the one that matches Voldemort's, he uses it to fix his wand. And then he uses his own Phoenix wand and just holds on to the Elder Wand, stating that it'll be hidden and buried with him when he dies, so no one else can use it.
You should just destroy it then.
That didn't work for Dumbledore.
No, someone will raid your body.
But
Someone.
I mean, I
Who
feel
knows who?
like breaking it in half and throwing it over a cliff, I mean, you got the same amount of chances as someone going down there and looking for it, I guess.
Yeah, Filch one day
Oh,
will get down there when he's cleaning up all the bricks and like, oh, what is this?
The new Dark Lord rises.
He'll like turn it into a bong and just like, fat rip out of it.
I like it.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that, if why he doesn't bring it with him, or
I didn't
anything like
understand why
that.
he dropped it in the first place. I just
Hmm.
I feel like I didn't even notice that he dropped it in the first place. I always thought he just had it with him when he died. So that was kind of a okay.
Or at least make a comment about how he, he's not going to go back for it because, it's hidden in the forest somewhere. Looks like a normal rock. I don't know. Some kind of comment.
Yeah.
It's just no closure on it. It's a piece of being a master of death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a plot hole, I would think, to leave that unmentioned.
Yeah.
One of a few in a movie that is the shortest in the whole set of movies. Probably could have given a minute to that. Who knows? I have some more notes on like kind of the ending of the battle because we kind of talked about most of it, but there's kind of stuff that happens after this part. But do you guys have anything else beforehand that you would want to bring up?
I mean, so not quite the final battle, but when they're getting close to it, I will shout out that we do see Lucius has an Azkaban tattoo on his neck.
Yeah, we saw his numbers.
Yeah, it saw his numbers on there. So
Nice.
thought that was pretty good. But I'm fine to kind of go to that final scene now, if that's...
I was gonna just say like I feel like I just love like the dueling that they have throughout this series. I feel like they do a really good job at just making it feel like fencing pretty much, just with a little bit, magic added to it. It's really like shown, I mean, other than Harry and Voldemort going at it, when Bellatrix and Mrs. Weasley, forget her first name, are just like going back and forth.
Molly?
Yeah, Molly. There you go. I
Put
just
some respect on Molly. Man.
I just really like that type of fighting, as opposed to just like Dumbledore and Voldemort like locked in. It's just more of like quick little like as if they have swords. I don't know. I thought it looked really nice and pretty and all that fun stuff.
What about
Again.
the falling off the roof thing? Let's do this the same way let's go the same way we started. And fly
That
around
was-
the castle and
I mean, I loved it because that's like my favorite power. Probably is that little smoke thing.
you have mentioned that.
At least a handful of times. The line was a little weird. I'm like, oh shit, Harry's not fucking around anymore.
And he just
He's a
calls him
man now.
Tom too,
Yeah.
which
Pretty
totally pulls you out of
comfortable
it.
now, yeah.
Headbutts him. That would have been so
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
Tommy. Yeah.
That
Thomas. Yeah, just calls him
Thomas.
Thomas. Maximum disrespect his name.
that part where Molly Weasley is facing off against Bellatrix, when Bellatrix full on was about to kill Harry's bride to be, and then Molly's just like, "You attack my daughter, you bitch," and then just goes to dance with her.
It's not my daughter, you bitch.
That's the one. Yeah, just fucking decks her out.
Yeah,
But-
I like that. I mean, turning her into glass and smashing her, like what a brutal way to go. Although I will say, I feel like Molly enjoyed it a bit too much. That's my comment on that.
She's looking with Filch for that Elder Wand piece.
Yeah, I
down
feel like
there.
she's gonna be the next one to join the Death Eaters with how much she enjoyed.
Two ones.
No, she knows that if Jenny doesn't marry Harry, they got no claim to that cash.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Well-
Gringotts, I mean, is a thing of the past as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, it's
Nope.
true.
No prenup for the Weasley
Yeah,
household.
no way, not happening.
I
Kirklin, I thought Kirklin was gonna say something. Could be wrong.
go ahead.
Sorry, I thought you were about to say
don't
something.
think so.
I could be wrong. Go ahead, Jessica.
So, a couple of things. One thing that I really dislike, and I know it's a problem for a lot of kind of people that are bigger fans, is in the books, Tom doesn't like turn into ash and float away. He literally flops over as a mortal. He dies as a human. The light drains from his eyes and he falls to the ground dead. And I think that, they did it to be flashy and have him, I don't know,
Go out like Quirrell, really.
whatever it is. But I mean, it takes away that at the end of the day, he's supposed to die a human death. He's supposed to have no extraordinary death because at the end of the day, he was just like everyone else.
Mhm.
So for me, that actually, it's something that I don't like because it still gives Voldemort all this like flashy, showy power when everything's
Right.
said and done.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up a bit later, but I think one of the reasons it's funny now that we've been talking about this movie so much, like I actually went in my rankings and bumped it up a tier because I'm like, man, I actually do love a lot of what's going on here. But one thing that I was kind of surprised by is how uninteresting I thought Voldemort was, particularly in the end. And so I think maybe I didn't care as much about that because I felt like less engaged with the character overall. But I think that is a really good point. That probably would have had a little bit more impact to me than making him feel like some otherworldly demon that like can't exist on this ethereal plane or something. Because when you take away all the Horcruxes, he's just like anyone else. But I don't know. Like I guess I'm curious on your guys' take on Voldemort in general, because I felt like he's just like racist, and like that's it. Like that. Like I thought in my mind, I thought there was a little bit more to his character, but really he's just like kind of a racist dude, and he's like really powerful, and like that's where like my sentence runs out. I don't know what else I can really say about him in terms of being a dynamic, interesting villain. I feel like he's a little bit one note in a way, and even if we see some scenes of him like getting I don't know, getting some backstory like as a kid or something like that, I don't think it really did much for me building
Yeah.
into the end. So I don't know. What do you guys think of Voldemort at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about him a lot in regards to like when we get to our character rankings, because like as a character, I feel like he should be a lot more badass than he actually is, because like I don't know, he's got some really, really cool powers. That one power he does when he just like shouts. He did it to Harry in this film. I just think that's so dope. And like he's got a few other cool tricks up his sleeve.
He has big sleeves too.
Oh, he's got big sleeves. Fit snakes in there. So I feel like on surface level, like it's he should look cooler, or he should be more interesting. But no, I was totally like thinking the same thing, Dylan. Where like, especially in this movie, I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like they're like by this point, it's like this is the villain we have, and this is just who the the good guys are going to defeat. It's not like there'll be another reveal or something more about him, because I feel like in the early movies, something that I really liked about Voldemort was just the mystery aspect to him. Like they don't even say his name. Okay, why do they not say his name? When you get like the handful of flashbacks in the early movies when he is a kid, it's like, oh wow, okay, he was just a normal student at some point in time. I wonder what happened. But I feel like they kind of get away from that in the later films, because they're like, okay, this is what we were showing, and this is the character that we have, so just like it or hate it, this is who you get. So I do think there could have been some more, I don't know, diving in with that character, because
I think it like we talked about in, I want to say the last two movies, we talked about how like he's not really showing up that much. Like in 6, he's like not there at all. Like he doesn't have a single scene, as if I remember correctly. And then in 7 part 1, he's just there in that last shot, right? And that's the only time we see him there. Maybe there's one or two other ones that I'm forgetting about. But we also talked about how they started introducing these scenes where we're actually just seeing the bad guy's perspective. We're seeing Snape and Narcissa and Bellatrix in a room just talking with each other. And we don't really get any of that with Voldemort. And I think that was probably where it fell flat a bit, because we get introduced him in 4 and it's badass, and we see him again in 5 and it's interesting. And then 6 we don't see him. 7 we barely see him. And then 7, like, here he is at the very end, and it's supposed to be this big conclusion. But I think they should have sprinkled him more in the last 2 movies. We talked about in 6 how I don't think we needed him here. I think it worked without him. But now that we're at the very end, I'm thinking in hindsight, well, actually, I think we should have used more of him there.
Yeah.
He ended up falling a bit flat, and I think it's because we didn't see a lot of him in particularly the last 2 movies, and in this in my trilogy of movies, so to speak. He's just not in the first 2, and that's pretty problematic when you're trying to build this big conclusion. But Jessica and Taylor, I'm curious if you guys feel similarly on the Voldemort train.
I'd be keen to hear your thoughts, Jessica.
You got closer to your mic. I was waiting for you to just go.
Oh,
It's not something that I necessarily thought of until you brought it up right now. That being said, you're completely right. I mean, in the beginning, it's fine to just be he who should not be named and the mystery. And I think even starting, we get him at the end of the 5th, so that's okay. So,
4th.
yeah, you're
5th as well in the Ministry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. I thought you were saying like the first time we get him. Okay, my bad.
No, we
First
start
movie.
to get scenes of him and to show what his power is like and what he's
Right.
all about. He's not scared to try and kill Dumbledore right in the middle of the Ministry, and I think that that ends off in a great way, and it does fall flat in the Dylan trilogy that there is no more kind of pieces of him building up. So to go from having him in this big finale ending a 5 to nothing in 6 and 7-1 just seems silly. Why are we supposed to have fear of this character that we're not seeing him do anything? I'm just trying to think when would have been some scenes that he really could have been added without, I don't know, taking away from something else, or that it would fit naturally.
Well, I think he needed more range. I think if you wanted to actually have those scenes, like, he doesn't have enough to chew on, and that's probably why they didn't show him, or I don't know, maybe it's just something that didn't transition as well from the books. But I think, like, what are you going to show if there isn't any more to him? Like, we already get that he doesn't like people that aren't purebloods. Like, I don't know how much more you can say about that.
What about the scenes where he's in everyone's head and Harry's head and things like that? I guess that's supposed to be his power there. But I definitely agree. There's really, we're throwing a bone with some meat on it when we're looking for more of a full steak.
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to Voldemort, I think what you guys have said is pretty on point. I mean, and it's not the fault for this movie specifically. I think it's just how they built him up in the previous films, because there should have been more of him to go in the later half of these movies, because there's 8 movies, and to actually in the later half have one movie without any Voldemort in it, I think is a huge con, because you brought him back, you built it up after spending the first few movies emphasizing Hughes shall not be named, and now you have him resurrected, and to not have him in one full 2-hour or something movie is just, it's very damaging, because now this movie's trying to pick up the weight, I guess, that was left there. So I think this movie does a good job, but it's held down by the con of the other films on how they handled with Voldemort. Because I do think the way his dynamic with Harry in this film, I thought it was really good. I didn't know about his death scene, Jessica, but I do like that more than the way he dies. I'm not like against how he dies. I think it's kind of cool because I just see it as like he came back as not a human, so he just kind of faded away because he wasn't a human entity when he came back. So
He dies
But-
just like Thanos.
just like that, as he got
Speed
snapped. Yeah, yeah.
I guess maybe one last thing to mention on him is like, well, why? Like, I don't know exactly the process of making a Horcrux. Like, we kind of get a little bit on it, but like, maybe that's something he could do is like make another Horcrux or something like, or maybe he goes to recover one or more of them to actually defend them. Like, why does he leave one in Hogwarts? That seems like something that he wouldn't do. I guess maybe he thinks that the Bellatrix one is pretty secure, but yeah, maybe there's something he can be like a more active agent in like. Well, he knows at this point that they're hunting the Horcruxes, especially after the locket gets destroyed. So why doesn't he do more to try and defend against those? Instead, he just kind of rolls over and lets that happen. So I don't know. Maybe that's something he could have done. My other kind of question with him is after he dies, there's still a lot going on at Hogwarts. Like a bunch of Death Eaters are still there popping off and stuff. But then we never really see what happens. Like the next scene we see is like everyone just chilling and recovering. So is it meant to be that all the Death Eaters were killed? Is it meant that they left? Is it that when Voldemort dies that they're like elite, like maybe he had some sort of spell on them in some way and they're like reverted to like regular people or something? Like I think it probably makes the most sense that they flee, but I think it's also weird that we don't see that happening. But maybe it's definitely more conclusive if you just picture that they all got killed, but it almost seems unrealistic that every single one of them died, but maybe I'm wrong there.
You see most of them flee when Harry jumps out of Hagrid's hands, right? You see a lot of them like eviscerating away or whatever, and that's when Voldemort turns around and looks at them and he's like freaking out.
Yeah, I mean when like after Harry kills Voldemort, like while they're battling, while those two are battling, like there's still like Molly's fighting Bellatrix and there's still Death Eaters cruising around killing other people. And we don't know what happens to the rest of them. And there's probably not many of them left at that point, but I was kind of just curious if they flee or if they all died, because I think there's a pretty big distinction there, because that could be a thing. Obviously, there's not another movie, but some sort of cult of Voldemort where there's like people who still follow his ways or believe in his ideologies, because obviously they did for 12 years when he was kind of dead or they thought he was gone. So
Well, don't they mention that is it the third one that people with the tattoo get sent to Azkaban? Things like that. So I mean, wouldn't they just do the same thing again?
like all the ones that are caught get sent to Azkaban, you mean?
Yeah, anyone with the
Yeah,
dark
but I
mark.
mean, so they all either got died or got captured at Hogwarts. Then everyone else was still there.
I mean that I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't have a proper headcanon for that one.
yeah. I think it would have been worth them. Even a throwaway line would be fun. I don't know. It seems weird. Like, oh yeah, but there's actually still like 100 murderers who will throw the Avada Kedavra at a drop of a hat, and they're just out there. But it's all good. Anyway, it probably doesn't matter, but I thought it was worth mentioning. These are two very quick things. This movie is very dark and obviously in subject matter, but I mean more just like the color palette. I found a lot of this hard to watch. Actually, I couldn't see a lot what was going on through like various of the battle scenes and forest scenes. I don't know. Maybe it was just I was watching it during the day on my computer. Maybe it was just hard to see in that scenario, but I found it was a bit too dark at times in terms of just like literally the brightness. And then something I didn't bring up last episode because it didn't really affect me much, but also was here, is I don't think the music really did it for me in the last two movies. I think it really, it was John Williams' score in the first ones that really hit for me, but I still think that some of the other composers did good jobs. I'm not saying that they didn't hear. I just can't think of a single piece of music that isn't like a callback or something in this movie that really stuck with me in any sort of way. So that's a thing. Taylor, I know you're a score guy. Do you have anything to add there?
No, I agree. The score was very non-existent in this movie, or just very calm, like that vocal tune they use, like when Voldemort was dying and stuff like that. The only notable track that I really, really like, and it's unfortunate that it only lasts for like 4 seconds, is right after Snape leaves and McGonagall lights the lamps in the Great Hall, and you play that John Williams classic Harry Potter theme. I love that. Actually, and again, when the kids at the very, very end are boarding the express, I love that slow kind of like redone Hedwig's theme that they play there. That was kind of nice.
Yeah, I think it's to me it's all the old themes that but I could like the new battle tracks and stuff don't stick with me.
You're not listening to that on your everyday.
Unfortunately not. Here's a really random thing that I thought was funny. I'm gonna put this in our chat if you guys want to open this link. But I was just looking around like IMDb or Wikipedia or something when I was preparing stuff, and I saw that in the first movie there was someone with the name Saunders Triplets, and I'm like, that is such a trippy name, Saunders Triplets. Like, what a name! And then when I looked into it more, apparently the baby in the first Harry Potter who plays Baby Harry is actually triplets. There's 3 babies that technically, I guess, play that role. But on IMDb, it literally says Saunders Triplets is an actor known for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, as if that's their name. So it took me a few minutes to realize that their name wasn't literally Saunders Triplets, which I think just Triplets is such an awesome last name. And I'm going to steal that for some of my writing in the future because I just think that's fucking hilarious.
You were gonna say for your children. You're like, whoa, you just thrown out the must.
Yeah, triplets must. That's a great name. But also I think it's a bit of an overstatement to say that these babies are actors. I don't know. Like I feel like I don't know if I would consider that to be their profession. You know, it's like they acted.
Have they
in this
acted
movie,
anything recently?
They have been in 2 movies, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and I guess uncredited in Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. So
I wonder where they are now.
Yeah, all 3 of the Saunders triplets are who knows where. And even their image on IMDb is just like it's like a thumb and then like a piece of paper. I don't know. It's very strange.
They're hand actors now.
They're hand actors, yeah. I thought that was worth mentioning for some reason. The only death that we haven't talked about is Fred. I think this is the one that impacted me the most in this movie easily. I love Bellatrix, but if she dies, it's not like I'm gonna cry about it. But Fred, I felt like was the one that hit me the most. I feel like it was, Dobby hit me a lot, but Fred probably hits a little bit more just because there's so much more connection to that character, and he's just such a good guy. And splitting up twins, splitting up triplets, that's a different topic, but splitting up twins is, I don't know, it's just a sad idea. And so rest in peace, Fred. Gonna miss you, buddy. Any thoughts on our little
There
Fred
is
routine?
that one scene, it's super quick, but when Harry falls under Hagrid's out of Hagrid's arms, and everyone is like, oh my gosh, yay. And there's that look, one twin looks for the other twin and he's just dead and not there. And it's just like,
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. The whole, every movie leading up to this, they're just, the comic relief, everything is either said together or one and then the other back and forth. They're Fred and George, and having it be just the one of them, it's just not right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems a little unnecessary, but I mean, it's to throw some emotional heartbreak near there at the end. Do you guys want to talk about the epilogue, or do you have anything that would be before? I also have some like kind of thoughts now that we're done all of these movies, I guess, before we get into our rankings. But epilogue is like, the last thing we should talk about before that stuff. Do you guys have anything about before that part?
I'm piggybacking on what you guys said about Fred. I just think is very, very sad, and especially after going on such a long journey, and like they're a duo, they're a team, so it is very, very disheartening.
I do have some other notes if we're going there. So another part I just wanted to mention on kind of the books is the final battle is not actually this like jousting thing, as Kirklin put it. It's actually, so all the survivors are like in a ring, and basically Harry and Voldemort are circling each other, and Harry's sharing about how Snape was actually on the other side, and the Elder Wand, and him knowing all about that, and then he uses a disarming charm and defeats Voldemort. So there's actually no like dueling magic. It's actually like a slow, steady kind of conversation piece. And yeah, so completely different. And then, like I said, Voldemort dies this human death. So, I mean, it's a movie. They have to do something a little more flashy. I can only imagine how many people would be disappointed if it was just this 10 minutes of talking and then Riddle like collapsed over and yay, everyone's. So something that is interesting anyway, that it very a huge lead up for such a different ending.
For sure.
Another couple of just kind of Easter eggs or did you know facts. Voldemort's robes get more and more gray for each Horcrux that is destroyed. So they go from black to kind of a light gray. It's supposed to symbolize him fading.
Nice.
Yeah, this is the only movie where Snape calls Harry Harry and not Potter.
That is cool. I did not catch that.
Anytime we see Bellatrix and Voldemort together, she is always on his right-hand side.
Nice.
And I guess if we're transitioning into the kind of epilogue, I do have 2 facts on that, so I'll just throw them out now. One, this was Felton's real-life girlfriend at the time in the train scene. He convinced her to be a part of it. And additionally, this is the only Harry Potter movie in which Harry doesn't say the final line.
And who does? His son? Who says the final line?
I believe it's his son.
That makes sense.
So
yeah,
it is
I saw that. Sorry, Draco's girlfriend or wife name was like Astoria or something. Also equally as badass as Scorpius. So I just love that family. It still has that evil energy, even if they're. I don't know. I feel like Draco's just an accountant in the future. Like that.
Yeah,
I picture him.
he's a squib now. I just laughed so hard when I like saw him like standing there. It just like kind of like surprised me. He's just got like the old man hair.
Yeah.
Just still looking like a bad guy, but it's just it caught me off guard.
Yeah, so those were kind of all my kind of little facty pieces. For the overall ending though, I mean, I don't know that I found it satisfying necessarily. I don't know. I mean, the battle ends and then we just skip 11 years and they're sending their kids to school.
19.
So
It was 19 years.
Okay, 19 years. The kids were 11.
I swear it said 19. Okay.
I'm sure it did. The kids are 11, right? They're going into their first year.
Okay.
That's my bad. No, I'm hoping they didn't just like immediately start having children after the battle.
They probably did it before.
Depression,
We might die here. Yeah.
We never
Baby
did
boomer.
we didn't get anything with Neville and Luna, did we?
No, I seemed
Awkwardly
like in my mind's
sitting.
eye that was a thing. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, he's like, "Where's Luna? I'm mad for her. I've got to tell her." And then
Yeah, they get their little scene on the stairs when they sit next to each other and whatnot. But for some reason in my head they had it. They were in that epilogue too, but I guess
if
not.
they were, I don't remember them.
No, their kids are going to the Bulgarian school. They're not
They
going
would
to
have some
Hogwarts.
trippy children. I think I really want to see that.
Maybe in the Cursed Child. Are they in the Cursed Child? I don't remember.
I don't know. Get to that in Cursed Child retrospective one day. I kind of agree. I don't know what more I would have wanted, but for some reason it fell a bit flat for me this time around. And maybe it's because I just wasn't totally engaged with the ending of Hogwarts. And then I feel like the epilogue is like really quick, which makes sense. Like I don't know how much more you could really divulge in there, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard because I really don't have a suggestion for what I would have wanted or what I would have liked to see differently. I mean, I don't think you really need the epilogue at all, so maybe you just don't have it at all. But I don't know. It's a choice they did. I don't know. I guess I feel pretty indifferent to it, which kind of sucks. You would think that that would be something that is maybe emotional or maybe gets you a bit hyped or has your heart feeling a bit full now that like, oh, everything's okay now. But instead, I just felt like kind of nothingness, which kind of sucks. And then I just was really questioning why Slytherin is still around. Like that was puzzling to me. But yeah, Kirkland, Taylor, I don't know. Do you guys feel same as me and Jessica, or do you sit somewhere else?
Jen's first.
Jen's, you fucker. Yeah, this scene, I feel like I liked it quite a bit the first time I saw it, and every single time now, I just stop watching like before it happens. It's just like it's like a mixture of cringy for me for whatever reason. I think it's just like maybe like they're supposed to be older with like all this stuff on, and for whatever I just don't care for it. Which like to what Dylan was saying, it is unfortunate for like this is like the last scene in this entire series, and it's just like I don't even want to watch it. It's just just I don't even know how to explain it. It's just a little cringy for whatever reason for me. But like the first time I saw it, I think it was cool to just get like Albus Severus Potter. That was his name, right? So you get those like calls to like the big influences in Harry's life. Not his dad.
Can you imagine he could have named the kid like Pettigrew, Riddle, Potter.
Wormtail, yeah. Yeah, so I think
Troll in the dungeon.
I think that's why like looking back on it, it's like I think it's okay for just like one viewing, but it's a scene I usually skip nowadays. So
Taylor, shed some positivity on it. We all hate this.
I am gonna give positivity. I actually really like the scene. The only thing that kind of pulls me out is Ginny Weasley looking like super young, but has like super like 40-year-old Karen hair. Just doesn't add up.
And then you have Hermione that looks the exact same age. Did they even?
Yeah, but she works though. Like she just put on like older clothes and it works. So
it kind of does. I feel like Ron, they gave like a beer belly, and that's like
he's had a few 6-packs.
Yeah,
I don't mean the abs. I mean
okay.
He's been drinking lots. The mill shut down. He's having a hard time.
Still thinking about Fred.
But yeah, I really like the scene, and I think it's probably the score that really sells me a lot on it. It just feels like, wow, we're back in that Philosopher's Stone aesthetic all of a sudden, and it's just so magical again. And yeah, it just has so much going for it. And I love the one-on-one Albus Severus Potter scene with Harry that they share. Just him talking about, what if I am put in Slytherin and all that stuff. So
I just want to say, as someone that is currently naming a child, how do you name your son Albus Severus? And then, like, I don't remember what the other children's names are, but, the two bravest men I've ever known. And then, and here's James. He was my dad, so you just get his name.
Yeah, James, this character that is, we just, as far as we know, is just an asshole.
I mean, I just don't like, if you're... Clearly how do you just give one kid all the good names and then
well, Scorpius was taken, so I mean, I don't know.
It's gonna be taken by Dylan by the sounds of things.
Dude, Scorpius triplets.
Scorpius triplets must. That's my firstborn for sure.
You're named after the bravest person I know.
So the other children are James Sirius and Lily Luna.
Okay, that's fun. Lily Luna.
Yeah, that's a fun name.
I like that one.
But I mean, isn't Luna still alive?
No, we didn't see her in the epilogue. She died.
What about Cho? Where's her name in there?
Yeah, I feel like she should get some retribution.
Still thinking about when he ratted her, or when she ratted them out.
All I'm saying is, I mean, I feel like you're giving two good names to one child, and then you're kind of shitting on the other two here. I mean, I'll defend Sirius, because I mean, I named my own child that, but...
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you just countered the argument all on your own.
Yeah, but I also didn't name him James. Like, let's be honest here. It's a shitty first name.
Whoa.
Sorry, James, if you're
Except all
listening.
the James,
Whoa,
all the
Jim.
Jimmies.
All the Jimmys of the world.
I mean, my stepdad's name is James, so sorry,
Yeah,
Jamie.
don't let him listen to this. Hopefully he's not a Patreon. Well, actually, he should subscribe to our Patreon.
I don't think we have any Patreons named James, so I'm okay for right now.
We do have a few named Scorpius. So here are some other random thoughts that kind of aren't really particular to this movie, but just the whole thing. And I think I'll just kind of quick fire these because we've talked about all of these topics in the last few weeks. Sirius Black, I know you just talked about. You love that name, and obviously that character means a lot to you. I feel like from the strictly movie perspective, I think he's a bit lacking in some ways. I feel like we skip a lot of his development, and I think we needed like a little bit more to him. I know that's controversial. I think from my perspective, it seems like the people who love Sirius are people who have read all the books. And so I'm not saying that he's not a well-developed character there. I just think in the movies...
I thought you were going to say something else. The people who like Sirius or something else, not people that have read the books. I was ready to get defensive.
I think because if you read the book, I'm sure that's a valid claim, because that seems to be like like everyone feels that way. But I think from the movie perspective, I brought this up before, but I feel like they just kind of skip to the point where Harry and him are like best pals, and then you get a couple scenes that are nice, but then he's gone, and it just didn't feel like he really had enough to him. He still is like miles better than Lupin, even in those small scenes. But I think maybe that's one of my things is I don't want to say I don't get the love for him, because I think it probably comes from the books mostly. But I'm wondering if there's any deep cut, like diehard Sirius fans who've only seen the movies, because I'd be curious why that's the case. Ron, I don't know how I feel. I wrote this down yesterday, and I think since our conversation, maybe I feel differently, but I think I liked Ron a lot more in retrospect than I shouldn't say that. I think I liked Ron in my mind's eye than when we actually went through these. I feel like sometimes he maybe didn't get all of the scenes that he needed to get that proper development, or maybe I feel like he doesn't, like, where does this story end? I don't know. Maybe he needed a bit more. I think I would need to think about that some more, but I thought I'd bring it up. I think the Ministry of Magic was like really terribly used throughout all these movies, and it's weird that it's just like, well, maybe it's not weird, but it's not mentioned at all in this movie, because it's not really important, I guess. But it is. I just feel like that was just not used very well as a concept. Umbridge is really weird to me because she's this whole big villain in number 5, and then she gets taken away, and like we were kind of talking about, I was like, man, is that like how she dies? That seemed kind of anticlimactic, and you guys know she comes back. She does, but for like 2 minutes, and then we just never see her again, and we never actually know what happens to her at the end of the day. And I think that's really weird. Like, why not just have her die in number 5, or like never show her again as if she was taken into the forest, and maybe we assume she died at some point there. And then we kind of just touched on this as well, but I feel like, Lily Potter gets enough development that you care for her a lot, but James, they kind of just say he's an asshole a few times, and that's all you get from him. And I feel like it's a bit weird. Like they should have at least shed a little bit more light on him to be a little more of a gray area character, rather than just like, oh, he was actually an asshole along and Snape was the good guy. It seems a bit weird to just brush James under the rug. Like, I think that's where Lupin could have come in handy had he actually been a useful character to shed some more light on why James was such a great guy and whatnot. But we just don't really get that, and I think it's a bit of a bummer. But anyway, I think with that said, I'm down to get into rankings. Do you guys have anything else you want to mention before?
I agree with all your character qualms.
You do?
Yes. I'm glad you brought those up, because I guess we kind of talk about them like during the episodes, but looking back on it, especially, you just have like the whole structured series to kind of pick apart. I am like definitely double down on that Sirius thing, because I feel like even like as a kid I liked him just because he was a likable character. Like they just set him up that way. Other than movie 3 when he's batshit crazy, but but I like, especially in this viewing, I was just like, hey, I'm ready to really really like Sirius here, but I just always felt like he was maybe like one notch up from Lupin, whereas like Lupin, you get a lot of like father moments in just movie 3, whereas in regards to Sirius, you get a little bit sprinkled like throughout more movies. So I feel like they're kind of close on that level. But yeah, so I'm glad you brought up those qualms.
those qualms and quarrels. Yeah.
Professor
Um,
Quell.
Ranking time.
I-
Got anything else?
I have one more thing that I'll throw out.
Tell us that we're wrong about Sirius.
I just want to say that, shout out to these kids who started this from like 11 to 21. Neville.
Dean
God.
Thomas. Don't forget about Dean
No, I
Thomas.
was trying to think of Neville's real name. I'm
I actually have no
actors.
idea what his name is. Yeah.
Bad with the actors, as everyone knows. He had to wear a fat suit and prosthetics to like kind of keep his glow up from being too apparent on screen. So he wore, a fat suit for the last couple movies and things like that. So just kind of shout out to these child actors, and Tom Felton dyeing his hair. I think it was every 10 days
Oof.
to try and keep it blonde. So, just quick shout out to that. And
A lot of dedication for sure.
yeah, not from Goyle, wherever he went, but
He fell into the flames below.
then not from Crab, wherever he went.
Yeah, who knows? I don't even want to know. Probably some bad guy shit for sure.
Do we want to start with character rankings, movie rankings, worst character discussion?
I think we should do characters first and then end it with the movies, personally.
I'm down.
Let's get the worst character out of the way, get the negativity out first. We just did one of these. I guess, yeah, so quickly for the rankings, we are all picking our least favorite character and then our 8 favorite characters and then ranking the 8 movies. So who wants to start with their least favorite character?
I will go first. I will pick Mrs. Umbridge. I really appreciated like the actress portrayal of this character. She killed it. She made me want to hate this character, and I really don't like this character, and I don't really have to explain it too much. I'm sure everyone that's seen this understands.
Yeah.
Torturing kids and just another racist character that is unlikable.
Yeah, it's the easy pick, but it's mine as well. I think if she actually had like some sort of finality to her, as I just brought up a couple minutes ago, maybe I would have been better with her as like a successful villain. But I think just being a loose end also kind of hurts my enjoyment of her. My joke answer is Dumbledore in 3 and 4, but
I thought you were gonna say Lupin.
Yeah, no, well, Lupin. I mean, Lupin is great in 3, and that's why it's so disappointing that he just has this downward trajectory. But yeah, Umbridge is going to be my least favorite as well. Mr. Field.
I decided to go with Aragog.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That is out of left field.
I really, again, like I feel kind of awkward with spiders, but in this sense, I pulled that unbiasedness out of this.
I feel
because
awkward.
my judgment was mostly based on the fact that I really didn't like that they went in there at the request of Hagrid. Hagrid sent them in there because Hagrid trusted Aragog, but Aragog totally just screwed Hagrid over and was gonna kill them. And he calls them friends of Hagrid. And I think, Aragog, I thought he could be better than that.
I love that answer.
I love that
such a Taylor answer.
Was not expecting that.
I could have guessed 100 characters. Aragog never would have come to me. Jessica.
I debated. I'm somewhere between Umbridge, but also Peter Pettigrew. I mean, sent the, Voldemort to Lily and James's location, turned on Sirius, creepy ass rat who lived in this little boy's bed with him for however many years, was the one that sacrificed his hand. But Umbridge is definitely a really shit character too. So somewhere between both of them.
Yeah, it's a good pick.
Very
Unlikable. Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah, fuck that.
Rat
guy.
Man. Yeah.
I still can't believe he randomly died on the fucking staircase, and that was
Yeah, I know.
that was his whimper.
I really wish that we would have got the Voldemort's hand killing him, because that would have at least been a sweet kind of redeeming death.
Yeah, that could have been a scene that we'd all rallied behind.
Did anyone? I just want to know. Did you guys rank your top 8 characters, or do you just have a list of characters that you?
I just have a list. It's not
I
in a
ranked.
particular order.
I ranked.
Oh,
Okay.
no, me and Kirk are on the same page.
It's a tough enough list for me, let alone like ranking them. I feel like I would have had a bunch of ties, and I would have just hated myself for having one person over the other. But
Let's hear it, Kirkland.
that's
What's your list?
okay. Starting at the bottom, my least favorite. No, I'm kidding. I have Professor McGonagall. She's
Nice.
not a very relevant character, but I just love all like the motherly moments that she has with the trio, whether she's scolding them or being really supportive. She's just, especially like going back to the early movies, she just always like was that motherly figure, and she just makes me happy when she's on screen. So McGonagall. Are we going in order, or am I just listing my list?
I think you should do all of yours.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have Hagrid. Again,
Nice.
he's kind of a sleeper pick because he's not too relevant, but it's pretty much just going to those nostalgic memories of like the first couple films. He's just such a joyous, just staunch of a man. I don't know if that's a word, but I like it.
I like
So
it.
I'm gonna go
Staunch of a man.
and just very friendly with the trio. So very similar reasoning to McGonagall pick. All right, and then I have Gilderoy Lockhart. I love this character. He's again another one that's just so irrelevant other than movie 2, but I love that type of character where he's just so like, I don't know, just egotistical, like, I guess.
Schmoozer.
Yeah,
Just
schmoozer.
greasy,
Like
just
the
a greasy
ladies,
guy.
ladies love him. It's very similar to the character I'm playing in D&D right now, just like that
Nice.
type of personality. So it's so fun. And I like kind of the twist that he has of like all those amazing stories he has. He actually just like stole them from other wizards, wiping their memory. So yeah, Gilderoy Lockhart. I have Harry Potter, just very vanilla answer, but especially through this watch through, I'm just so impressed with like Daniel Radcliffe actually able to like, especially in these later films, like he was able to show a lot of range in his acting. I found, whether it's emotional stuff or angry moments, I just felt like it's tough to have a solid lead in a series like this. And I thought he's a really, really good one. So the chosen one, I got Hermione Granger. Whether it's my boyhood crush on Hermione going back to then, or just like all these moments of just her being, the wizard that has all the answers, and just just a solid rock in that trio. Got Bellatrix Lestrange.
Nice.
Not much more to say other than she's just fantastic. Every scene she's in, she's just like makes you wonder what she's gonna do next. So psychotic. Severus Snape, pretty easy answer. Kind of talked about him already. And then Luna Lovegood.
Nice.
that was my number one that I wrote because I just knew that she's going to be on my top 5 list. I don't know if that makes her my favorite character, but every moment that she's on screen, I just love it. I love all of her dialogue. She's just so strange. I mean, I don't want to say too much because I'm sure she'll be on other people's lists. So that's my list of my 8 favorite characters.
Jessica?
He's first.
So, like Kirkland, I did not necessarily rank. I mean, obviously, there's some level of ranking to it because it was kind of how I thought of them. So, to kind of start us off, unpopular opinion, I do have Lupin as kind of the end of my list. So, he does get a lot more in the books. There is... this wasn't necessarily top 8 movie specific characters. If it is, then I probably wouldn't have put Lupin. I think there is a lot missing from the movies.
You can't really separate them, right? You're just like, to you, they're probably so connected, right?
Yeah, there is. You could separate them to a degree. Like I said, if we were just to say movie, it would be different. But and then I have Draco. I do think that, there is some kind of lackingness to it. I think it's a really realistic character development from being this naive, kind of tween that's only doing what your dad says to forming your own opinions and, kind of making his own choices and eventually being a proud dad, sending his kid to school. I think it's a great character development, great arc overall. This one, I put them together. Can't separate them. I do have Fred and George.
Nice.
They have to be one.
Mhm.
They are the comic relief throughout this, even in the books and everything as well. I think so many times, a lot of my notes were just like, this line from Fred and George was great.
Mhm.
I have McGonagall, the mother figure. Not much more that really needs to be said on her. I have Bellatrix. I just think she's great. Her, completely psychotic. She's just crazy in the right way. I have Luna as well. She's definitely one of, I don't know, the perfect casting for that character. I do have Snape. I think, his arc is just great, and that pensive scene that we get really ties everything together. And then Sirius, my boy.
Nice.
Once again, there is more to him in the books, and kind of that development of the relationship there. But I mean, I couldn't name my son after him and not have him in my top character list. So, I mean, and like I said, I put him down first and then kind of went with my list from there. So, in a way, there is some slight ranking there for sure.
Nice. Mr. Field.
All right, here we go. My number 1 is Harry Potter. I just can't shake it. As Harry Potter for the murder mystery, Jessica. Like I like Harry. He's a go-to. My number 2 is Luna. I really do like Harry and Luna, like as like a couple. I just think that he bounces off her well, and she's just got awesome perspectives on things. I really like her outlook. Number 3, this is just a very bold one, but it's through all like the laughter and everything. Seamus easily has it though.
Number 3.
Oh yeah, like
Wow.
boy.
yeah, he's too funny to pass up. He had to be on this list, especially high up there. Just he's always nuking his drinks and everything, and he's always got he doesn't say much, but his one-liners in the movies just land every time.
Looks like
Yeah, his,
Weasley got himself a howler.
Oh, yeah, it's so good.
His screen time relative to quality is it's like Creed in The Office. Like, he's not in it much, but if you pound for pound each for the screen time, he's the best character.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
I like it. Yeah.
Followed by that is Fred, and then followed by that is George.
Whoa.
Oh, splitting them up.
I'm splitting them up.
But Fred
yeah,
above George.
Fred above
specifically.
George. Yes.
Yeah, take that, George.
After that, I have Dumbledore. Albus Dumbledore, to be specific, not Aberforth.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Glad you cleared that up.
Had to clear that up, yeah. And then after him, I have specifically the Chamber of Secrets, Tom Riddle Voldemort. I really, really like that one, even though it was very brief. I just really like how commanding and he was on screen, and his whole appearance and his stature. Really, really liked it. And I guess the score just added to it too. Just such a badass reveal.
Nice.
And then Snape at the close that off.
Right,
Snape's
yeah,
just Snape.
Our list is very similar. I'm gonna do you did yours from top to bottom. I'm gonna do mine from 8th to 1st. So mine, I mean, it's got to be my boy. McGonagall said it best. He has the proclivity for pyrotechnics. It's Seamus Finnegan. He had to be on my list. I love this guy. I want the Seamus Finnegan cut. I want his movie. I want to know what he was doing throughout all these years. Number 7's got to be Snape for me. He had to be on my list somewhere. I think, going through all these, I realized it's fun to go back and watch him in the earlier movies, but he really doesn't do a whole lot. So I think it comes together in the end in a good way. I think I'm the only one to have this on my list, but Ron Weasley, I just talked a few minutes ago how I have some issues with his character. Maybe doesn't get all that he deserves, but at the same time, I think, in some way that's kind of the point of the character is that, not everyone's going to have this big hero's journey. And sometimes you're just going to be the sidekick to the guy who does it all. And I think, it's also some recency bias because I think he's less interesting in the last couple movies, even 3 movies. But I love Ron Weasley from 1, 2, and 3, and I think 4 is when it starts to lessen so much. But I just love him in those first ones. Number 5, I have Bellatrix. To me, she's the best villain throughout all of these movies. None of them really have great motivations or backstories that are super in depth, but I think what she has going for her is that she kills Sirius Black, and I think that's really important because it actually makes you feel like, wow, she could kill anyone at this point if she could kill him. Like, that random vampire dude, he's not going to kill anyone important, so it takes away the stakes. But Bellatrix does it. She does kill someone super important, and that she could do it again. So I think that makes her intimidating. This one is going to be maybe a big surprise, but also maybe not. I put Albus Dumbledore at number 4. I had a lot of issues with them, and I brought them up, but I also think they rounded him off, and that's such a weird way to word that. I think he came at the end of the day, it came together, and it all really worked for me. And I love Dumbledore in 1 and 2, and there's a little bit of a period there where I'm not a big fan, but I think when it's all said and done, he's such an interesting character and his perspective on everything.
Was that Albus or?
Of course.
Specify? Okay.
I think I did. I want.
Okay. Sorry.
Number 3, I put Hermione. This is an interesting one because I feel like compared to some of the other big characters, she actually doesn't really have much of an arc throughout these movies. Maybe she does, but it feels like she's pretty consistent through all of them. But I still think she's incredibly interesting. I love the scenes she has with Harry in the last few movies. Her relationship with Ron as it develops, and I think it's just great that she's kind of the smart one that's coming up with all these great plans all the time and is just thinking things through logically when that's not always the case. Number 2, and this is where it gets really similar to Taylor. Number 2, I have Harry Potter. I put it at number 2. I think it's the vanilla pick, but at the end of the day, I think it's impossible to debate that Harry doesn't have just an amazing sense of development. He has such a varied set of circumstances that he's put in, and we see him in so many different ways. I think in the first couple of movies, he is like kind of boring and like the acting's not the best, and he's kind of just this golden boy that can do everything. But as he develops, he becomes super interesting in that he has the weight of the world on his shoulders and he has all this responsibility. We see him tap into his anger. We see him tap into the love he has for his friends. We see a lot of good comedic stuff too, and particularly Half-Blood Prince, the Liquid Luck and stuff like that. So I think he's just, I just love Harry. I didn't think I would have him that high in the ranking before we started this, but I realized, like, man, for all of the problems I have with these movies, they fucking nailed that character. And obviously he's the name of the series, so you kind of got to, but they absolutely did. And then coming in at number 1, surprising no one, I think this is maybe the only character that everyone had on their list. Luna Lovegood, right? Or maybe Snape. Did everyone have Snape as well?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I think this is the only other character, but yeah, Luna, I think she's just such an interesting addition to this world because she feels so real within this world. She is such a unique kind of whimsical, magical nature to her. She really embraces the world in its entirety, and just a character I wanted so much more of, but every scene we get with her is gold, and I just wanted maybe a bit more, but I mean, even without that, she's still my number 1. So there you go. Those are the characters. The movies should maybe be a bit simpler. I don't know.
So,
do you want to start again?
Before we do that, there was something that I have just, it's a picture, so it was lower in my notes, but I just have a list of everything that was set to be 7 in this series. So there are 7 books, 7 years of school, 7 Horcruxes, 7 Weasley children, 7 copies of Potter to when they go from the Weasleys to the Burrow, 7 players in Quidditch, 7 floors of Hogwarts, 7 tasks in the Philosopher's Stone, 7 secret passages to Hogsmeade. 7 is Harry's Quidditch number. 7 prisoners at Malfoy's Manor. 7 locks on Moody's trunk. Harry and Ron both receive 7 owls over their time at Hogwarts. Gryffindor common room is on the 7th floor. Lily and James began dating in the 7th year. There are 7 snakes on the door to the Chamber of Secrets. Dumbledore puts out 7 lights in Pivot Drive when dropping off Harry. Harry and Neville are both born in the 7th month, and Voldemort tried and failed to kill Harry 7 times. There's a few more in there, but none of them that are super referencing to or relevant to what we've talked about.
And 7 is also a prime number.
Whoa.
Well, that just you topped everything
Nah.
I just said. Shit.
Holy. Wow. Let's just end it right there.
Yeah, good night.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, they broke that when they made 8 movies. So, Kirkland, what are your ranking for your 8 movies?
Alrighty, yes. So this I actually have in order, believe it or not. So starting from number 8, and
Mhm.
I will work my way to number 1. So I have Deathly Hallows Part 1. I should preface this list was incredibly hard for me. Actually, there was some that I had in like the 3rd spot that like got pushed down at like 6, and like it's
Whoa.
not because I like that one significantly more. It's just these movies are really hard to judge because there's a lot of moments that I really, really liked in certain movies versus others. And then, you're balancing nostalgia in there. And it's just, it's kind of
Mhm.
hard to evaluate. But nonetheless, that's my little disclaimer. So number 8, Deathly Hallows Part 1. Number 7, Order of the Phoenix. Before we started the retro, probably would have been my last one. And then when we did that episode, I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be way higher on my rankings, I think. Bumped all the way down to number 7, unfortunately. Number 6, I have Deathly Hallows Part 2. Just had some issues, and won't go too into that. But number 5, I had The Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah, no, never mind. You're good. Keep going.
Thank you. Yeah, number 5, Prisoner of Azkaban. Number 4, Philosopher's Stone. This one was really, really tough. I know. I thought it was going to be higher just because of nostalgia in there, but really dissecting the movies above this, I had to push it down. Number 3, Goblet of Fire. That was another one that I thought for sure was going to be, I don't know, maybe a little, just different from where that is. Number 2, Half-Blood Prince. I absolutely love that movie. I like it more and more every time I see it. So I knew it was going to be high. And number 1, my favorite movie of all time, Harry Potter wise, Chamber of Secrets.
Nice.
I fucking love that one. Go check out the retro episode on it if you want to hear me spieling. I knew it was going to be my number 1 before we even started this retro. I love that movie. I've probably seen it the most out of everyone on the series list. Without going into it, just go check out that episode. I was going ham on that one. I was so hyped on it.
Our lists are very similar. That's interesting.
Oh,
Do you want to go next then? Share your list.
Sure. I also had Deathly Hallows Part 1 as my 8th. It's not a complete movie. That's what I'm going to say. There's a lot of padding. And then this is a slight deviation here, but my number 7 was Deathly Hallows Part 2. It's funny, during this cast I bumped it up to 6, and then I actually bumped it back down. There is a good amount of stuff to love in here, but I think there's also just so much that is missing or feels rushed, or I don't know, something like that. So it's gonna stay at number 7 for me, which is absolutely not what I would have predicted before starting this. Number 6, Order of the Phoenix. I thought this would have been my last place one starting this, just like Kirkland said, but I actually found a lot more to love in it this time around, so it ended up bumping out the Deathly Hallows. This was probably my biggest surprise overall for myself, is Goblet of Fire at number 5. I've always considered this my favorite movie. If you asked me any time in the last decade, I would have told you that. And so it's a big shift for me, and I think I just have a lot of issues with that movie, but ultimately there's just things I love in the other movies more because I like all of these movies. And I think it's easy to be critical of them, especially when you're watching them with a really keen eye back to back to back. It's hard to coordinate things across 8 movies, apparently, when you're switching directors and writers and all this stuff. But I should have said that at the top. But I love all these movies, or at least I like to love all these movies. Anyway, so Goblet of Fire is number 5. Number 4, Prisoner of Azkaban. I liked this one a lot more than I remember liking it. I think there's a lot of good stuff in here. Even if Lupin ends up being a flat character, he is an amazing character in that movie. So I have to put respect where it's due. Number 3, big surprise for me as well, Half-Blood Prince. This is the movie I just forgot everything about, but just like Kirkland, man, I fucking loved this movie. It was so much fun to go through it. I like this slice of life element to it. I like a lot of the plot stuff. I think it connects a lot of things. Even though it, just like all these movies, has some issues, I ended up really, really enjoying it. And it's one I'll definitely go back to more than I would have thought. And then my last 2 picks aren't anything that crazy, I guess. But number 2 is Chamber of Secrets, and then number 1 was Philosopher's Stone. The first 2 for me, it's just it is nostalgia, but it's those two movies and the look, the smell, the feel of those movies is why I love this series. It's why I'm here doing this retro. It's why I spent all this time. It's a long retro. This is a lot of work to do 8 weeks back to back. And the reason I did it is because of these first two movies that got me in love with this interesting, different, magical world. And I loved how bright and colorful and magical they were. And we lost a lot of that along the way. And of course, those movies have some issues, acting being a big one. But I still love so much of those.
Do you
movies.
have 1, 2, 3 with your?
Not quite. Prisoner
No.
Azkaban was 4. Half-Blood Prince kind of snuck into the third slot. Yeah. But it is kind of chronological somewhat, with a couple deviations. So
I
yeah,
guess-
me and Kirklin were very similar.
Yeah,
Very, very similar.
a little surprised by that, but let's see what happens.
Yes, I can hop on next there. So I don't really know what I expected my order to look like, but it is different than so I'll start by prefacing. I for sure would have said that I would have guessed Order of the Phoenix would have been for sure my last one. But I actually have Deathly Hallows Part 1 as well.
Not looking good for that movie.
Yeah. That is, the one redeeming thing that I do love about that movie is the tale of the three brothers and that
Mhm.
animation, but just not enough to save it.
Hmm.
At 7, I have Part 2. There, yeah, I feel like there was just still a lot of issues with it. It doesn't, like you said, doesn't feel complete. There's a lot of problems that is really kind of taken from a creative lens instead of trying to stick to that book. And I feel like if you're going to split up the two movies to try and follow the book, then why not follow the book? I don't know. Controversial. I have Chamber of Secrets at 6.
Ooh.
Oh my god.
Taylor is shocked. He is shook right now.
I don't know why. I just don't have the same connection
Oh,
to it
You
that
made
guys
good points
do.
for why on the episode. I do remember a lot of that.
I don't even remember what I said about it in the
Still
episode.
shocks me.
Yeah, sorry guys. And then I did get Order of the Phoenix got up to 5. So I
Oh
will,
yeah, we're back.
Where it belongs. It's the 5th movie. There you go.
it is. And then purely for nostalgia, the Philosopher's Stone sitting at 4. A Goblet of Fire is my number 3. And I, similar to Dylan, I would have had that probably at 2 before this. So it did get bumped for the Half-Blood Prince. I enjoyed that movie. Again, I remember enjoying the book as well. It's just, for the intro to a trilogy, it was a good first movie. Goblet of Fire is really, you got all these tasks and it's just kind of, things are really kind of fun until the very end. And then the Half-Blood Prince is really that switching point. And then, to nobody's surprise, I said it before we started this, I have Prisoner of Azkaban as my number 1.
What?
My favorite movie. Still is. Love it.
Serious.
Serious. It just, the dark, the time travel piece of it.
Mhm.
Peter Pettigrew.
Yeah, Peter Pettigrew, of course. Can't forget him. There was a lot of things that they left out of it that I've brought up, but it's still, I enjoyed it. It's got a lot of characters that I've mentioned were in my top 8 in it. Yeah. I will just kind of throw this out right now. Dylan talking about the magic of how much work this is. I mean, when you think about each movie being 2.5 hours minimum, and then each retro being 2.5 hours minimum, 5 hours times 8.
Oh, don't say it. Don't say it.
It's a lot of time. It's a lot of
It's been,
time.
yeah, and we haven't skipped a week. We've made it happen. So
This, kind of a necessity. If we would have skipped some weeks, we might not be.
especially
Get them
because
all
all of you guys are still doing a lot more podcasts on the side. This is kind of mostly I jump in here and there, but you guys have also been doing a lot more other than this. So extra shout outs to you guys for being able to You guys are very flexible, is what I've learned this week. Or not this week, this last 2 months.
This
really.
week only.
Yeah. But switching days around so we could keep this on track.
Yeah, thanks guys.
That's-
Appreciate that.
But I can't wait to hear Taylor's list. I mean, he's alluded to
Oh,
it
yeah.
before, but I mean, that
Start with
Aragog
number
pick
one,
just changed my whole life. So now I got to know what's going on here.
So, yeah, my number one, Chamber of Secrets. I
You're
can't.
starting from the top again. Okay.
I am. I love starting from the top. Yeah, Chamber of Secrets. I
Oh
I
my
can't
gosh.
deny it. It's just such a good.
Thought it was Order of the Phoenix.
I thought it was one of the things as well.
Nope.
Good pick. I back it.
Yeah, it's
That's a
just
good pick.
I love that movie. It's fantastic. My
Sword of
second.
Godric Gryffindor. Come on, that's such a big movie.
Oh yeah, iconic. My second pick is Goblet of Fire. There's many times where if I don't feel like diving into the first three, I'll start my Harry Potter marathon at
Whoa.
Goblet of Fire and go
That's
from
daring. Yeah.
That is daring.
there. I know. My third, Order of the Phoenix. This is easily like the top three Harry Potter films for me. No questions asked. They're just so good. Deathly Hallows Part 2 is my number 4, which quite surprised me, but
Whoa,
like getting through it, there's a lot in that I really, really liked. Really, really liked. Half-Blood Prince is my number 5. And that's just because of how it just got dark, a lot of changes in Harry Potter's world. Philosopher's Stone is number 6. And I know it is kind of low, but like it's a fun magical adventure. But when I think of the nostalgia, it's definitely Chamber of Secrets that has it. Chamber of Secrets has so much of the magic that Philosopher's Stone has and more, in my opinion. So that's why I put this down here, because the other films have a lot of new, fresh stuff that I could put over Philosopher's Stone while maintaining that nostalgia in Chamber of Secrets. Deathly Hallows Part 1 is number 7. And yes, Prisoner of Azkaban is number 8, and I apologize. Just doesn't have enough going for me that I can really hop on board with.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, that's the only relatable thing is the bus scene. If I got another 15 minutes of the bus stuff, I would have bumped it up on my rankings list.
I feel like you're indirectly saying that Suicide Squad is better than Prisoner of Azkaban, and I'm a little insulted.
That's a bold claim. If we're doing rankings of 10 per movie, then that would be very different, I would say.
What would be your score for Prisoner of Azkaban out of 10?
Prisoner of Azkaban? Well, I mean, it's not 10 out of 10.
Like Suicide Squad was what, 9 out of 10 or 10
If
out
you
of 10?
put Will Smith's Deadshot,
I'm
in
not
Prisoner
asking
of
for that.
Azkaban?
I'm not asking for that.
but you're asking if I'm basing a DC movie in relation to this, like ranking wise.
I'm just
like that
asking
movie.
for your
Let's
Prisoner
move
of
on.
Azkaban out of 10.
That would
What
be
your score
a
Why are we doing 3 hours
6.5
in.
out
Why?
of 10.
6.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's one of Taylor's lowest ratings ever.
Yeah, it might actually be the
No,
lowest
Jigsaw
rating
is
ever.
lower.
Yeah, Jigsaw forever.
Wow,
Worst
comparable
one.
to Jigsaw. Great.
No, not comparable.
I'm glad I put Chamber of Secrets. I want to lower my rating for Chamber of Secrets.
What is
now.
your Chamber of Secrets out of 10? What is it? You're gonna break Kirklin here.
He's gonna fall asleep.
I don't do ratings out of 10,
Fair
but
enough.
I had it at 3. Now I'm thinking that maybe Deathly Hallows should be above it. Maybe it should be at 7 or 8.
Well, this was a fun retro. I had a good time. For some reason we like talked about this and then Taylor did his ranking, but I think this was really fun. I'm glad we came back to these movies. I feel like I haven't done this in a very long time, and I probably won't do it for another really long time after this. But I'm glad that this is enshrined and we did this, and I feel like we were pretty thorough. I feel like holy shit, we're here at the end, and it's been a bumpy ride for sure, but it's been fun.
You didn't say that with the accent?
I was already mid sentence. It's hard to change to that accent mid.
I mean, this was 40 hours of our life, right?
Oh,
That was a full work week.
that's a lot.
For the patrons at home
For the patrons, for the muggles.
and for the free feed fans, we appreciate you too.
Mhm.
Whenever you're seeing this like a year from now,
I think it's interesting how we went from quoting lines to becoming very serious, just like Harry Potter's journey becomes more serious.
yeah.
You
Well,
know?
as Seamus as he loses screen time, there's less one-liners. It's
It's true.
Well,
It-
they
it's
killed
logical.
off part of the dynamic Fred George duo too, so you can't get any banter going there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leaving
Well,
it on a positive note, obviously.
Of course. If no one else has anything else to add, I mean, yeah, like you guys have already hinted at. Thank you everyone for joining in. This has been one heck of a journey. 40 hours specifically.
Send us your rankings. I want to hear what the fans' rankings are.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Give us
I'm
your
down for that.
eight characters you like and your number one character you don't like and your ranked movies.
Do it.
Yeah.
Mhm. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, witches and wizards out there, you know how to find us. Yeah, until next time. We'll see you in the search bar.
Are we doing it?
no.
Oh no, I fucked up.
Oh no.
We're doing it.
You're
We're doing it.
expelled.
Jessica saved us.
Yeah,
Mischief.
Oh, Mischief managed.
Wait, what did you say?
I didn't realize that your countdown was the countdown. Okay,
Oh no.
can we try it again?
We
Let's do it
fumbled
again.
it.
Let's
Oh,
do it
I
again.
stopped the audacity already. We can go again.
Kirklin. 3, 2, 1. Mischief
Mischief
managed.
Managed.
So delayed.